There we go, there we go. For another rock and roll. On the toes. July 25th, towards the mountain before the Sabbath Friday. Got some food, thank you for the donations. Got some pogos for me and my anonymous friend. Got some dark black chocolate. Cream is gonna be perfect because it's gonna unfreeze. Because they were frozen, and once I hit back by midnight, we were ready to start, commence the Sabbath with a feast. What a feast! Farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, welders. These marching steps by this androgynous aspie artist. This for the rock and roll for my LGBTQ rainbow family 24/7. Pro labor and love. Universal revolutionary center. Support the dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom is fundamentally my dream for a public private partnership across the North American collective civilizational complex. Clean my room, clean my temple, clean the floors. About 4 hours of cleaning in my home, the bathroom, and took a shower and did some geopolitics because ain't not one day, 1 minute is every minute that I do not geopolitic. 24/7 rock and roll geopolitics, sports and fitness with this aspie artist athlete, mystic who's financially stressed, but who paid that rent, paid my electricity bill, and I got 6 days to pay. 6 days to pay my cell phone bill. So I got enough dollars stacked in exactly to pay my cell phone bill. And that's how we're gonna do it with that. And that's just how we're gonna rock and roll 24/7. And I'm grateful, thankful for the donation of the fridge. You see often in my videos, the fridge that I'm making reference is of course a Montreal hot island in my neighborhood, and there was some food today, and I took some of that chocolate for me and my anonymous friend. It was actually chocolate cream. Somebody puts that same one often there, and took some pogos for me and my anonymous friend, and that's about it with that. See how my brain now works, because geopolitics is my domain, my field, my kingdom, my special interest. If you don't know, and that I have Asperger's, thus I have what's called special interest. And now at this point event, 25th of July, circa 8:16 p.m. in the heading towards that sunset, my brain in this point event with this time frame and event in my life, I'm of course meditating, and my brain switches to the truckers who are now crossing the great 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, always for the 63, as we're gonna fuse in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. And of course, always meditating, always saluting, always singing that rock and roll for the truckers, as of course now I integrate fully in a meditative processing analytical manner of this point event and all the trucks, truckers thereof, and meditating on their well-being, how they're doing financially, socially, spiritually, and physically, because we need our workers happy, joyous, and that's how we're gonna roll in the future. And that's the meditation for today. And of course I am aware that this goes south. My finger is now pointing south towards the US border, and that way is north. So it's going either towards the border or coming in from the border, coming in from the US or going into the US. And the trucks are full of maybe pogos like I received, maybe full of those chocolates, maybe full of bread, butter, grains, wheat, barley, diapers, baby food, baby powder formula, cucumbers, tomatoes, garlic, grapes, my favorite fruit, the grapes, or etc., any valuables or consumable goods, durable goods, maybe as well, durable goods. But the first primordial reference, of course, is that this truck right here might be carrying tons and tons, if not hundreds of kilos, hundreds of pounds of goods, which can feed, of course, a few families for a few months thereof. I making an assumption because I don't know exactly what's carrying, but I gotta know everything that's coming in and out, and 24/7 everything that's being going east, west, north, south across the 63 for total SSD, security, service, and defense. My call to all to support the dream, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. Love that red, my favorite color. Swan 56, and yes, I rock and roll. This is quite beautiful how it was made here. So if people have talent, you know, I rock and roll. For the firefighters, for the plumbers, for the butchers, for the truckers, and the nurses and the daycare workers who done changed some of those diapers. That is just how I roll, and you know I love to rock and roll on the road as I go. Point in time there gotta be, so you see. Left and right you gotta D. And the left and the right and the guard got a sparker. What is that? Interesting book. I got enough books now, and of course I read, I write, and I do geopolitics. That's mostly where my life revolves around, doing geopolitical theoretical analysis and geopolitical studying and analyzing geopolitics. Because I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and mystic and artist, athlete, philosopher, and mystic, geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and develop strategist as well. So develop geopolitical strategies. Financially stressed, beautiful. Wow, I love flowers like that. Colorful flowers like that just makes me big smile on my face, because I love yellow flowers, and red is my favorite color, that red. But of course I love to see multiplicity of mixed in colors like that is always a joy for me. So you know what, we're gonna do a little bit of a different now, because it's Friday, and I guess sometimes we gotta switch a bit, and we gotta get on that. We're gonna cross the street prudently. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street. Sometimes the car's brakes malfunction, you know, the electricity snaps, brakes malfunction, the citizen driver presses the accelerator instead of the brakes. So all those are things which can potentially happen, of course. So that's why we have to get double prudence. Always get a little bit on that safety, because now I'm in the public sphere, public domain. So once I step in the public domain, I got added responsibilities, duties, obligations, which I don't usually have. If I would have stayed home, I would have had less, but it's that Friday, and every day for years and years and years I have my Aspie routine, ritualized routines. Aspies, people with Asperger's like myself, we have these ritualized like routines, and sometimes I don't mind change, especially when it will come to economic, financial, commercial, money wise. I'm just financially stressed. That's my only stress. But like many Aspies, I've been through the depression, the suicidal period for a few years actually. So that wasn't no joke. And now in the past years, I'm on the joyous side. So that's what it is with that. And so that's just how we rock and roll, you know. And I'm just going to discuss, of course, a little bit of Asperger's, because it's important, because I'm part of this tiny, small fraction of the population of a community who lives with this neurodivergence. And I've lived the blocks, the stoppages, the blockages, the pains, tribulations, and all I got to get that doing with that. And, of course, all the tribulations and the pains and the suffering attributed with being an Aspie. This neurodivergence, you know. Neurodivergence, because it's not a mental illness. So I got 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Just in time, you know. So sometimes just in time, that's what I gotta rock and roll it. And just in time sometimes is all you need, you know, to appellate, and of course to situate yourself and your well-being, and make sure you cross the street prudently, turn your heads left and right. And that's just how we're gonna do it together in the conscientious manners of which we love, and in which we be, and which we sometimes, of course, live with integrally, you know, in our daily lives. And I gotta give a salutation to the bus drivers, public bus drivers, super important, you know, to get those public bus drivers a little bit of love, and all those who are doing their rehabilitation, you know. That's my old neighborhood there, old neighborhood. Nothing that I will to go back to, you know. It's been a long journey to just accept that I have Asperger's, because I've been diagnosed for many years by several individuals and citizens, and I always rejected it. I always had this aversion, to accept the label that I'm different and I will have to live with this difference, and that I do not fall into the whatever it's defined as being normal, and the normal citizens, the 99.56%. And of course, us Aspies were less than 1 percentile, less than half of a percent, 0.44%. That's why a lot of people don't even know what Asperger's is, and I have to let them know a little bit, because sometimes our behavior interactions can seem strange, odd, bizarre, and the comportments, the way we speak, interact, and we certainly are less able in certain social circumstances, being that we're less able in certain social circumstances. Of course, we excel at other things. When it comes to our special interests, that's where we excel at. So we can be Aspies. Of course, I'm an individual sovereign citizen with this neurodivergence, and first to commence, of course, to know fully that it is not a mental illness, right? It is not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's not. NOT, not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition. Aspies, we have these mutations of the brain. Aspies, we have these mutations of the brain, Of course, they're not visible exteriorly. They're not visibly exteriorly. They're not visible. You cannot visibly detect. We cannot visibly detect. But they happen at the microscopic level, So the microscopic level, they are there. At the microscopic level, the mutations are there. At the microscopic level, their mutations are there. So the mutations are there at the microscopic level. So basically, these mutations make us, of course, that we are inclined towards special interests, which preoccupy our wholly daily activities, which revolve usually around those special interests, our special activities, right? So our special activities can preoccupy our holy life with intensity, super focus, and super intensity, focus and concentration, unfortunately to the detriment of other things of a social nature, right? And I gotta give a salutation, thank you to my anonymous friend who, what my friend, because of the money, because I never had, and I gotta give her 50% of $1 million to build the forgotten goddess temple. She only my temples built because she got that pyramid, this piece of dust that I am, rock and roll and dragon. Yeah, so that's what it is with that, and that's how we got on that go, and that's how we have to be doing on the appellations, So the point is that these books, and again, it took me years and years to accept that I have Asperger's, because for many years, by several people have been diagnosed, and they don't want to accept it. I said, well, I have a stigma, I have a stigma. And that stigma, of course, is to wear the label of Asperger's, To wear the label of Asperger's, because it's still a lot of work to be done, There's been a lot of work done, and there's still a lot of work to be done in the future. But more and more work has been done, in the 20th century, and definitely more work has to be done to demystify the characteristics and demystify the Asperger's in a contingent manner, in a fully, I would say, operational manner, in a full way, so that we can continue to build bridges. Because us Aspies, the 0.44%, and you, the 99%, was 99.56% in actuality. So 99.56% of Aspies, right? So that is basically what you are. Of course, part of the 99 0.56%, and you are part of the I'm part of the 0.44%, and you're part of the 99.56%. So that contributes to what we Aspies are. And of course our difference is marked by these traits and characteristics which cannot be easily discerned. They cannot be easily discerned and directed and dissected in a manner that is a neurotypical manner, right? Because there's the association with words such as illness, or of course illness, and the other side of the illness, the characteristics, of course, is the sort of the stigmatization, the stigma, and the conformed language use by the neurotypicals vis-a-vis the Aspies as we are neurodivergents, the 0.44%. They attribute that it's a disability, it's a mental illness. But yes, in certain things, we are less able. We are less able. So definitely I am less able, capable in certain things, as many Aspies we are, especially when it comes to things of a social comprehensive nature. The social comprehensive nature of the time of which we appellate in the being and acting and building these bridges, which we gotta build, small bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, or super extra large bridges. Within those 4 categories can be 3 or even 4 subcategories to each of the category. Look at the bunny. See the bunny? I see it blurred, but it's a little bunny going hop, hop, hop. So we got a big rabbit population, and now I'm going up the mountain. As you can notice that I'm going up, Mountain Westmount, one of the 3 peaks or the mountain system, as I'm heading towards my second home, known as Mount Royal on this 25th of July, So that's just how we got to build the bridges of understanding and of working together and of collaboration. Because myself as an individual sovereign Aspie, I don't have antagonistic feelings, sentiments, behaviors, or intentions towards you, the 99.56%, right? But we do have some problems we have to work on together, because we can contribute lots. Flag spotted. I got that flag on yours truly here. Canada. Don't ask me whence I got it, probably decades ago, because if you ask me my life prior to spring 2014, I got blackouts and memory loss and retrograde amnesia, so I have trouble remembering my life prior to like spring 2014. I know I graduated high school and have points of references and other references which I have in the side of the appellations, but it's something, of course, which I always gotta integrate and internalize. And beautiful white flowers. Look at those beautiful white flowers. Along with the other ones, colorful ones, and these beautiful buildings here. And the other buildings, because I gotta salute the construction workers, and you know I got a crane fetish. I got a fetish for cranes, and that's just how we're gonna rock and roll it, you know, for today, for tomorrow, in the manners of which we are and which we be, and which of course we gotta continue to work on building these bridges of understanding and working together. The 3 main problems which Aspies have, and now I'm gonna finalize what I was gonna say. Thank you, gratitude to my anonymous friend for donating 2 books on Asperger's and autism, because Asperger's is also HFA, high functioning autism, and of course that is the characteristics which we have to be doing on that, and which we have to be doing on that characterization. And of course the other conglomerate is of course the Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autism, and the other one is Asperger's and HFA. But the 3rd book is Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, which was loaned 4 times because it was a library book, and I really appreciate it because I learned so many things about myself as an Aspie, how certain things either can cause a little bit of trouble, and of course, my vulnerabilities. And Aspies, we have these vulnerabilities because our brains are different, and these mutations, again at the microscopic nano level, make us that we see the world differently. So we look at the world in a different manner because of these mutations, and we have certain odd, weird, strange, bizarre ways sometimes, or bodily movements and repetitions and ritualized type of course, movements of the hand or body, or repeating word sentences, or echolalia, or being too overly it's not obsessive for us, but we are intense, super concentrated, super in what seems abnormal, but again abnormal and obsessive from you, as you see at the 99.56%, the 99.56%, the 99.56%, and us the 0.44%. For us, me doing hours and hours and hours a day, either working out, training, exercising, fitness, or engaging in geopolitical analysis and theorizing, of course, it's not an obsession. It's actually a very joyous, and Aspies have to be supported in those special interests. And it's where we find meaning and purpose and a sort of freedom and liberty inside these obsessions. So they're not negative, they're not detrimental, in other words, to us, our special interests. But that's why I don't use the word obsessive interest, special interests. But the problem is, because sometimes we can be direct and straightforward. Being direct and straightforward, sometimes we, of course, have to be aware of that situational awareness and be loving cranes, because I got a crane fetish, and now I'm just calculating mathematics and computing distance and weight and volume and potential gravity. Just some mathematics popped into my hand in relation to the crane, and I'm not going to go into that. That's another Aspiness. This is Aspie. If I would be with an Aspie, we would probably discuss so many mathematical questions about just this crane for like hours right here, discussing just mathematics in relation to that crane, probably for like 4 hours, and we wouldn't even know. And people will be passing 3 times with the car or 4 times with the car. Hey, those two strangies, weirdos there were just agitating with the hands and discussing and pointing towards the crane. What's going on? So that would be probably the weird situational awareness and the weirdness aspects of Asperger's. The more awkward art, the more divergent Aspie traits, Aspiness. And so there's no medication for Asperger's. We have to learn to work with each other to build these bridges. Us, Aspies, and you neurotypicals. Us, the 0.44%, and you, the 99.56%. So these bridges always have to be concorded and built, whether small bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, or mega, extra large bridges. Right? They have to be built. We have to build them. The main problems now, I'm going to have to go into the problems of being an Aspies, which I faced myself for the past years and years and years. I mean, as long as I can. My memory is very good. The past 7, 8, 9, 10. Then after 11, it kind of goes blackout and raw. And I don't know if before spring 2014 I was a junkie. If I was a junkie or did alcoholic consumption. Sometimes alcoholic consumption, just too much alcohol consumption can cause memory loss or trauma, or heavy drugs. So I don't know if maybe for a few years before spring 2014, I was deeply into drugs and alcohol, and I remember I was attacked by surprise and was bloodied up, and went to the Jewish General Hospital, had a dislocated right shoulder, right arm, and was placed back, and it was cracked back, placed back, and I survived, and I was put on some meds, and I was like in a coma for a few days, and I guess ever since that event, I don't remember my life prior to that event. Don't remember my life much prior to that event. Sometimes memory comes back, you know. Sometimes memory comes back, but I just don't. Whatever. Most important is my work, and especially in the geopolitical work, the artistic, athletic work, and all the work, because that's what I've been doing for years and years and years. And the three main problems which aspies we face, which of course, well, maybe we should take those stairs now, because yeah, let's take those stairs. Let's take a different route. It's Friday. Gonna take the stairs just to change a bit, because usually we have our ways and we have our rights, but we're gonna take, of course, the route there. I wonder how much the speed is here. So anybody want to finance? I go up and down these stairs 100 times, 300 times, a few times, or whatever the case may be. I can go up and down and get it up and go on the down, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And anybody wants to finance, I go up and down these stairs 300 times with $300, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And I could definitely use the financing or commission work, geopolitical work, and that feels so good. Oh yeah, I actually felt really good. Go on that and those stairs. That felt really good. Yeah, that felt really, really, really good. It's a bit fitness, you know, that's what we love, and it's part of our interest. So the three main problems in my trinity of special interest have been, is, and are, of course, the trinity. One, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport. I always create to choreography, even now in my head, with my toes, with my feet, with my eyes, with my tongue, with my booty. And of course, it's rock and roll. 24/7 on the rock and roll as the sun goes down and comes up. Montreal to San Francisco, you know we clap. Rainbow Dragon, that's a dragon army, that's a cadence. Rock and roll for the Hydro-Quebec workers. Plumbers, electricians, and the welders, firefighters. Oh yeah. And geopolitics, in whatever order. So I can spend hours and hours and hours a day. Unfortunately, to the detriment of other activities, I can spend hours and hours and hours a day doing those activities. Hours a day. Sometimes even I drink 2-3 cups of coffee. And what I do? Hours and hours of geopolitical analysis and theorizing. I go back and forth. Foreign news channels, foreign ministers of Russia, China, Japan, Brazil, Germany, etc., 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 etc. Their discourses, the new events. See, we got the Quebec flag there. That's Brazil. That's Canada, and a few other Quebec ones. And of course, I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who's not perfect, and far from it. And that's how we gotta get doing like that, and we gotta get drilling on that, and that's all we have to be doing to get it go here. So that's Asperger's. But there's not a lot of people who know exactly what Asperger's is. So there's a lot of different aspiness. Of course, it presents itself as this neurodivergence which has these characteristics. And of course the characteristics are not symptoms. You cannot denote anything to do with Asperger's as being a symptomatic. Their characteristics is traits. They're traits, you know. So being that they're traits, so those traits, of course, appellate themselves in such a manner where you can interact with an aspie and you will detect those traits, those characteristics, that way, of course, in which we speak, in which we interact. Look at that. Isn't that odd? That's very rare. I didn't never see anything like this before in terms of a sewer. See, all other sewers are different, if you notice. See how it is? This one's made very differently. Maybe it has a different purpose, but it's just the way it's made. Maybe it's, wow, it's kind of cool. Looks futuristic a bit. Wow, I never seen anything like that before. I guess this is maybe an aspie thing, you know, where we notice we notice different traits, we notice these details, weird details. So we Aspies, we might pay attention to these details. But there's another one, see? How it's protruding. It's protruding there. So that's the protrusion. It's protruding there. So that is just Aspiness, you know? The characteristics of Aspiness. So that's just how we are, how we interact with everyday life. It can be very weird, very awkward, because we don't know the social norms come very difficult to us, eh? So sometimes we're very direct and awkward. So that's how we manifest our Aspiness, right? As an Aspie, somebody who has Asperger's, we have to be told certain things. Because we don't just know this. These things come difficult for us. We might be good at mathematics. We might be good at other things, such as noticing certain details about the way that's shaped, the shaping of that. So that's what we have to be doing. That's what we have to be doing. So that's why we have to be constantly building these bridges, right? So we Aspies might notice certain things, of course, certain things which others might not. Certain things which others might not. Which others might not. Which others might not. That's one of them. That is just one of them. So this is just Aspiness. That is just Aspiness for you. You know? So these categories are integrated inside of us, our psyche. Right? So the psyche of an Aspie, how the mental faculties process the world, is seen through these mutations. It's seen through these mutations. Seen through these mutations. Seen through these mutations. So seen through these mutations, and there's nothing one can do but live the best life with Asperger's, although I suffered, struggled, was depressed, was suicidal. And of course, the depression and the suicidalness comes from the three main problems that Aspies face. The three main problems that Aspies face. The three main problems. The three main problems that Aspies face, which are high depression and suicidal rates. High depression and suicidal rates. High depression and suicidal rate are 9 times higher than the neurotypicals, the 99.56%. I was depressed, I was suicidal. What got me out of depression was crossing Canada, coast to coast, coast to coast, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. What got me out of depression, was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, in 2016, 17 August, went into BC, British Columbia, Vancouver, and then went in 2017. Look at those beautiful yellow flowers. In September, went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that summer is gonna be next month, and in August and September I'm gonna be marking 8 years. So it's been more than 7 years ago. It's gonna be 8 years ago. Oh, I like how the flowers are put there on top. It's really cool. Good, I love it, I love it, I love it. See the flower pots there? It's really cool. I love it. Especially red and green to go together. It's like the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom's colors. So I was depressed and suicidal. What got me out of depression being that I crossed Canada. That event, crossing Canada, really made me come to the realization of how many things we have. How many things we have together. And I consider Quebecers Canadians, my brothers and sisters in the USA family, because I was born in the USA 3 times, post 1776, once as a woman, twice as a man. I served in the same United States Armed Forces, 156 years apart as I was born here. Sometimes a woman, a man. I was a Quebecois before it was the Quebecois known as today. I lived between 1688 and 1735, and once I was born a man, I served in both the RCMP, before it was known as the RCMP, and the Montreal Police. Look at these beauties, like the hanging gardens, just top 9+. That's a gorgeous garden. I just love it. Just love it. Wow, what a gorgeous garden. What a gorgeous garden. What a gorgeous. Look at that, you can see part of the city there. What a gorgeous garden. Wow, that's just beautiful. So I survived being depressed, suicidal, and another problem with Aspies is lack of friends. Just to be fully understood, it is July 25th, 2020. July 25th, 2025. Friends with benefits only. I don't want Will to waste nobody's time. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. I don't will to waste nobody's time. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only, you know. Friends with benefits only. I don't will to waste nobody's time. Friends with benefits only. I don't will to waste nobody's time. Don't waste mine. Friends with benefits only. You're black, you're white, you're a man or woman of age. Gonna card you just like that. Getting that. Legal cannabis is legalized since 2019. That booze, that liquor, to go get some of that. To go get some of that booze, some of that liquor, some of those cigarettes, and you're gonna get carded if you want to love with me. If you're black, white, a man, a woman, we can do that H, hot, 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 hot. Play that gridiron, homo loving, bisexual loving, or cheerleader type, with that dancing being my favorite sport. So friends with benefits only. Aspies, we don't have a lot of friends because there's misunderstandings, you know. Misunderstandings to what Asperger's is, and I just gotta give a shout out to the public workers who did a little bit of that gorgeous here. It's just so nice. Oh yeah. It's just so nice. Just so amazing. This is so amazing. All of these are very beautiful. Gotta thank you with that, and for that, thank you. all of these plateaus. Look at that, just so nice. I'm gonna take a look at the city here. You see that is south. You can see it a little bit blurred, and that's downtown core area of Montreal, but we're gonna see it from another place. And I don't know why the fence is here, because you can go down, but see, that's where it goes a little bit. That you can see the downtown core area of Montreal, Hawk Island, HAWK, Hawk Island, Montreal, 45 for us butchers, bakers, and sometimes we're over there. Sometimes we're way over there, and we point the camera here towards the mountain, but we're miles and miles and kilometers away, and it seems like it's a bit smoky, smog-like, and smogginess. I know it seems like maybe a storm is coming, and I guess I don't mind storms. I like sunset, sunrise, midday sun. But these, I gotta give some salutations to the public workers. These are just amazing. These flowers are just embellishing, especially you mixed it with the yellow. Gives me a big smile on my face, and just so much life and so much aliveness. So don't put trash here, and these are for the public, eh? So now passing by Westmount, but they're just so gorgeous. They're identical, and they're so nice. You can see how nice they are. Just, it's really nice, really top. Wow, good job. So the other problem with Asperger's is, of course, the high unemployment. So lack of friends or few friends, high depression and suicidal rates, way higher, 9 times higher. So for every Asperger, for every one of you, 99.56% of so-called neurotypicals, there's 9 depressed and suicidal of us who are so much way fewer. We're less than 1% Aspies, eh? And the third one is really high, which is unacceptable. We gotta work on that. It's 80% unemployment for Aspies. 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. This is 11 times higher than the neurotypicals. 11 times higher. It is totally, say the word, unacceptable. And I had many jobs, many Aspies. We have jobs. It's just maintaining them long term. I had jobs for a few weeks, a few days, a few months, 3 months, 4 months, 4 months, 3 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 months. Right? But the problem is maintaining them. The problem is maintenance long term. It's, can you imagine, 80%, 80, not 8, not 7, not 6, 80, EIGHTY, 80%, which is 11 times higher than you, the vast majority of the 99.56%, the neurotypicals. But again, we have to build bridges. We have to work together, and that's just how it is, and that's just how we have to do, and that's just how we gotta rock and roll it with that, and that's just how our life is gonna be from now on, you know. Building these bridges, small bridges, medium bridges, super big bridges, super extra large bridges. We gotta build them. Takes meeting halfway sometimes and knowing what it is, and securing my individual sovereign liberty 100% with yours, and then individual for the collective for the individual, as we're going to move towards the coming Imperial Republic by fusing Canada and the United States, the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the Thelemik Empire. That's what we're going to do. And so, appellationally, in Concordiate, to whatever the case may be, we have to build those bridges. But yes, I suffered. I've been depressed, suicidal. I live with scars, and maybe my memory will come back. But my memory, when I'm speaking about long ago memory, years and years ago, I'm speaking about spring 2014. My memory blacks out. I have trouble accessing my memory prior to spring 2014, where I lived in that. I used to live still on the island of Montreal. Hawk Island in this life and in another. I'm going to my second home now, Mont Royal. I used to live in a moldy, underground, underneath, very moldy place. very moldy, just mold, M-O-L-D, black mold, whitish mold, greenish, reddish mold, lots of M-O-L-D mold. It was like an underground type basement, type of like a prison cell, like a prison cell. It was like a type of like a prison cell, right? Type of a prison cell type of situation. So I guess I served my time, you know, and I have this memory of trauma and being attacked by surprise and by gangster. I ain't afraid of no gangsters. I ain't afraid of no gangsters. May I be avenged 11-fold. It ain't all about the money, we that dragon army. May I be avenged 11-fold. It's not all about the money. May I be avenged 11-fold. It's not all about the money. May I be avenged 11-fold. It's not all about the money. May I be avenged 11-fold. It's not all about the money. And yes, you know, give people second, third chances. I got my own. I died of COVID. I had it between mid-February 2020 and mid-March 2020. Mid-February 2020 and mid-March. Mid-February 2020 and mid-March 2020. So mid-February 2020 and mid-March 2020. I thought I was gonna die. In many ways I did die during COVID. Many ways I did die during COVID, and many ways I did die during COVID. And of course, being reborn, nothing that I will to go back to. And 2020 I got triple vaxxed. I encourage all to keep the protocols, the public hygienic protocols which were developed during COVID and which I try to keep to the best of my ability. I have flaws, I'm not perfect, you know. You get that 50-50, I'm androgynous, pansexual, that's just how I flow. Hadron Hana Dragon, changed my name and still gotta pay. I wish I could get that one and my anonymous friend that one to be close to each other right there. On a house like that, 50-50. And now we're going a bit in the darkness. In and out, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and I'm just financially stressed. I wish I could afford a massage therapy session. Twice a week would be ideal for me. Like Wednesday and Saturday. 3 times would be heavens. 4 times would be more than I could ask. As I maintain a physically fit lifestyle, but with the Dragon Army, we're gonna move to those services because the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and we're gonna rehabilitate and rejuvenate together in the mass Imperial coming of our empire, the public-private partnership and non-sectarian Thelemik, Thelema. From the island of the Hawk headquarters, let's sign the perpetual Imperial Union by fusing Canada, United States, the 10, the 50 and the 3 on the mountain. Let's do it September 11th. Deadlines. I missed many deadlines, many struggles, many sufferings, and I know my brothers and sisters, my children in both Canada and the United States will answer our call. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean for defense. I'm good at geopolitics, and that's where I'm going to direct my discourse now, towards geopolitics with Dragon. Nobody's born a dragon, not even myself. The blood, sweat, and tears to turn my name into change my surname into a no. Even now, with every step, every marching step, becoming somebody making love now, I'm sure. Somebody giving some charity. Somebody turning their life around from a life of committing crimes and violence and taking their second chance across the 63, which we, Dragon Army, we salute. We what? We salute our brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation. As we salute our brothers and sisters, men in uniforms, the boys and girls in blue, what you gonna do? We gotta salute both our brothers and sisters who take their life and change their life around and change their ways, right? And do their criminal rehabilitation. I just gotta bend my knees a bit because it's a bit in the valley, but as I go out towards the light from the darkness now and see, sometimes you gotta see in the darkness in the forest and We're going from one peak of the mountain, Westmount, to the other peak, and you got the other one, Mount Royal proper. And Mount Royal is my second home, right between the east and the west of Montreal, and right slightly south of the north. Slightly south of the north. And here we are, into the light again. Whoopee-cha-cha. Got a little bit of that steepness there, but we managed. We managed safely. Here we are, that is the barracks. Perfect way to start the discussion, analysis, and dialogue and discourse, the geopolitical discourse, because being that I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and strategist, developing strategies first and foremost for the North American collective civilizational complex and NATO by extension. Furthermore, for world peace, and fourth dimension, I guess, in the future for interstellar, if we got those multiple planetary fifth element type-ish situation in the future, but from now on we don't, so it's 3 dimensions and the fourth coming, I guess. But here we are, so that's the barracks, Montreal barracks, or the Army of Montreal, and that's all. We got to get a little bit of salutation. It takes a little bit of that red, takes a little bit of that red with that, and that's all we got to get on that consequential and that prudence, and got to salute them. We'll put our uniform. They're not perfect, we're not perfect. And now, of course, we're going to discuss geopolitics, and when we reach the mountain, we're going to take that main out, and that's all we're going to do. So here we go, gonna get on that consequential prudence, and we're gonna go on that left and right and turn our heads left and right, even if we are to pass, because you never know, the brakes might malfunction. Somebody comes, and right here the brakes malfunction, and that's what we have to be doing with that. And we have to turn our heads here, and then of course circumvent and get it on the side of the things which we have to do, something which we gotta be realizing, that these possibilities of the brakes malfunctioning, that's why we have to be prudent on the side of the things, and we get it on the go, eh? So that's just how to make sure that in the public we have to get on that life and gotta get it on the go, so so that's all we have, and that's all we gotta get drilling, man. Salutations left to our brothers and sisters in uniform, Canada, United States, and NATO, and now geopolitics. I gonna leave the baggage at the door. We're just gonna discuss geopolitics on my DRT for a while. I don't know how long, but somewhat, and let my main out and auctioning everything that I'm wearing for a main: the hat, the underwear, the shoes, the socks, the shirt, my little hairpin, and that's where the barracks of our Canadian Armed Forces, the brothers and sisters in uniform, served many a times either as a part of an armed forces from ancient Egypt, or a priestess, and mystic. I was the priestess who orated the Pythia, great priestess Pythia, who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. I was the priestess who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. I was the priestess who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. I was the priestess Pythia who orated the great Rethria Catholic Quirkish. So now we got that 25th, 2025. We got that July 2025, and that's what we got. July 2025. We got that oration for the Dragon Army. As priestess Hannah for that DJ dancing goddess army and the Dragon Army, aka the Imperial Republic and SSD Legion parallel of course to the dancing goddess army, and of course the Imperial Dance League, and that's what we got, and that's how we gotta get rock and rolling. Pledge your allegiance to our family. Back to 2019, I predicted what's happening now. Back to 2019, I predicted what's happening now. Back in 2019 in October, November, you heard that correct, I got proof of that work. I predicted the current geopolitical environment, the current crisis, the current international affairs, the current World War II, post-World War II situations, World War III actually. So I predicted the type of World War III situation, and of course that's what I predicted. Of course, a World War III situation, and of course is something which we have to be understanding about. That of course we gotta get on that rock and roll for the go, and that's what we have to be doing on that, and get it for the left, for the right, and for the butchers, and for the left, and for the right, and we gotta get doing on that, and gotta get doing on that. Seems paused. Now no need to force yourself. So I predicted what's happening now. Back in 2019, in October, November, I predicted an international conflagration. Watch it. Of course, what I predicted now, is happening. What I predicted back in 2019, October, November, is happening now, as I have predicted it. Not exactly with every detail, but in a major way. So we're gonna go back in time a bit. In 2019, October, November, I had concluded that humanity internationally is set again towards a course of an international conflagration, and so created, produced that workout training program system to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. I created a workout training program system which is efficient, simple, effective, and of course which concomitantly I have myself performed more than 372 sessions of my own created workout program system that I created back in 2019 in October, November. I created a workout training program system back in October, November 2019. You heard that correct. Back in October, November 2019, I produced a workout training system designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. back in 2019 in November 2019. It was, my analysis was scholarly, academic, intellectual, cratocratic, but it had one main common denominator, one main point, and the point was, of course, that the point was, one of the main points was that due to the fact that many nation states, civilizations did not fully resolve their conflicts from the 20th century. Of course, due to these conflicts, that's what those unresolved conflicts, they're gonna come and reignite in the 20th century, in the 21st century. So those conflicts from the 20th century, especially during the Cold War period, we're going to begin in the 21st century. And if you look what's happening now in the world, is very much that follows that premise. That premise, of course, follows the consequential thing that which we have and is happening today, which is happening today, you know. Because that's all, you know. You get that rock and roll, and we gotta get a little bit of that hydration. See if we can get in and get a little bit of that hydration as we go here. You got a big lake, so you can come and relax here, and that's what you can go, and that's what you can do, you know. We can do with that.
Mais il peut pas se lâcher, il veut même pas. Tu sais, chez nous, comment le salon, ils mettent le divan, ils mettent en lit. Là, ça fait couper, ils enlèvent leur pantalon. Puis tu sais, je suis pas prude là, est-ce que vous me connaissez comme une fille avec non, mais à un moment donné, je suis pas ici à l'aise avec le monde, juste être chez les parents de mes amis de mère. Hey Tina! Avec le cœur. Salut Tina! Non, il est très. Oui, exactly. No, he's very comfortable with me. Like, je suis dans un sens, je suis comme. Il est à l'aise avec moi. Ils se sont à l'aise. He wears
Roll time, gentlemen, roll time.
Performative. It's good. And what you really are. Tell them what you really are. Be honest. I have to say it. I have to gossip about others to feel good about myself. Say it. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. Say it. I gotta what you really are in the darkness. In the darkness, we see. Say it. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. Say it. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. Say it. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. Say it. In the darkness we see. In darkness. Things can turn. Things can turn. You got little kids. Cut the real kids like the show. Then you cut. The off. Strikes. Your mother. Cold. Had a song channel. That's a good song. It's gonna be a hit. I gotta gossip about others to feel good about myself. How about it? So that's all we have to do. Implement the DRT, which we're gonna discuss now. I'm always joyous when I come here. Whenever I come here, a lot of times I get flashes of past lives. Once a man, a priestess of PTI orated the great Rithria to Lycurgus. And slapped a few poems to my Papa Crowley back in the days. Mount Royal, geopolitics, rock and roll, sports and fitness, and that's a great channel song. So you gotta gossip about others to feel good about yourself. I ain't perfect, I got flaws. I play black and white or rainbow. If you don't love me, don't come close, keep your distance. Keep my name out of your mouth. If it's not for a blessing, even not dragging home without an understanding, otherwise there'll be pestilence. Keep my holy sacred name out of your mouth. If not for a blessing, otherwise hope there'll be pestilence. Keep my holy sacred name out of your mouth. It's not for blessing, otherwise there'll be pestilence. Keep my holy sacred name out of your mouth. It's not for blessing, otherwise there'll be pestilence. Keep my holy sacred name rebirthing here and not dragging if it's not for blessing, otherwise there'll be pestilence. Hope we have an understanding. And the other channel song is of course the Rithria, and the other channel song is the geopolitics, and the other channel song is of course the goddess. She doesn't need my pieces of dust, my channeling, because she's infinite stars, infinite space, and the little sister got a kiss, dances with her brother the sun, so she doesn't need my chance, because I'm a nobody, but I am an Aspie artist, athlete, philosopher, and with other rock and roll song. In the dark we see, in the darkness. In the darkness we see, in the darkness we see. So I love coming here, it just brings me so much joy. Where the horses of the police are here. I don't think they're out because it's night, but I just love coming here so much. My second home in this life, the Mistress Forest on the Mountain, and we're gonna discuss geopolitics. So back in, of course, 2019, October, November, I had predicted what's happening now. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019 in October, November, I predicted what's happening now, and back in October, November, I predicted what's happening now, you know, so that's what it is, and that's what we have to get it up and get it going, and getting on that truancy, and getting for those butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors. Got to think about the truckers. Somebody, strippers is Friday. Give some 50 stop across the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3, please. Strippers, give some give some discounts. Give a free lap dances to the truckers. To the truckers. Dragon and Rainbow Dragons call. Dancing and stripping is a form of dance. You know, dancing is my favorite sport, but I'm not a stripper. I'm priestess of the empire. Priestess. Got those trillions of kisses. DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, let's do it. Dragon Army, let's do it. To PvP, public-private partnership institutions for the 21st century, for total service, total security, total defense. Yeah, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. In 2019, I predicted that there's gonna be an international conflagration, and of course, that international conflagration has been, is, and was, of course, advertently now on the horizon as we move towards it, as we, of course, appellate, as we, of course, get all the dynamics of our North American civilizational complex to do and be done with everything that's being happening now across the North American civilizational complex, and that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on the drill to get it, of course, for the appellation of which we are concomitantly about to fully understand and grasp the prediction, because this was not really a prophecy, but it was a prediction based on analysis, based on me, the paradox of my curse, which had many problems and suffering and strugglings of Asperger's, but that's turned into a blessing, and one of it is my development of geopolitical theoretical analysis and theories, and of course me having predicted what's happening now back in 2019, October, November 2019, as I have predicted, of course, that humanity is against it towards an international conflagration. And see that where the most people go, by that way, it's best if you keep the main channels. If you don't know the mountain that well, it's best you keep the main roads. And of course we can go further that way, but I guess we will. But see, that's where the main people go, by the illuminated side. See, illuminated side, and illuminated side there, and that's all we got, and that's what we have to be doing on here, you know, to get it on the go, and that's what we have to be doing on the left and right, and getting to the plurality, getting to the darkness where we see, you know. So be careful, just stay where the light is, if you don't know the mountain. And you know, this is my second home, so we enter the darkness, and in darkness sometimes we see. So back in 2019, I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration. An international conflagration, of course, which has been, is, and of course will happen, of course, in the side of the things which we are now proving and concomitantly to get it on the go. And that's what we got, and that's what we got to get it on the left and on the right and in the middle, in the center right, in the center left, and in the right and in the left. I'm not going to address the far left and the far right, of course. But of course, this following geopolitical statement, which I'm about to make, one has to say yes to it. So before we can advance any further discussion from a North American centric perspective, you have to say whether you're on the left or on the right, in the center left, center right, you have to state yes. That's what it is with that, and that's what we're gonna get doing. So, of course, this statement is a yes. It has been so for the past 75 years, ever since, of course, the United States rose as a superpower in the fall, consequently, post the partition of India and the decolonization movements and the dissolution of the British Empire post the Second World War. This has been so for Canada that in the past 75 years, as it is today, as it will be in many, many decades to come, that us, our main geopolitical interest, and this is reciprocal, and when it comes to foreign affairs, the number one priority and policy that we both Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the United States must have is to have to attain the best cordial, diplomatic, cultural, economic, defense and security strategy principles with each other. So that has to be a yes. That statement, you have to say yes. Everybody has to say yes. Again, I'm not talking about extreme right or extreme left. Right? I'm talking from a centrist, center right, center left, and right North American perspective, whether the centrist, leftist, right leftist, center right of Canada or the United States reciprocally. You have to say yes. And for the United States is the same. As a foreign policy, principal foreign policy interest for you and us is to have the best, most cordial relations with each other. There's just no way out of that. That is just the reality of how we are as a North American polity, as a North American collective civilizational complex who shares this geographical reality of coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and of course the historical development that we are part of an ethno-cultural civilizational complex which is not totally divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So that is just something which you have to completely state yes to. So there's no no to that. There's no no. You cannot say no, right? You can only say yes, 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 yes. You cannot object to that statement. The geopolitical statement again is, for both Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the USA, for both Canadians and Americans, the number one interest, respective, the number one spot, our common interest, cultural, social, cultural, economic, financial, defense, security, diplomatic, philosophical, and for business, for comments, for pleasure and pain, is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, defense, military relations with each other, right? There's just no way out of that. There's just no way out of that, right? Those are bikings. There's just no way out of that. There's just no way out of that situation. There's just no way. You cannot object to that. You cannot object. You cannot say no. You have to say yes, yes, yes. You can't even say maybe, because it's a geopolitical reality, right? It's just real geopolitic. That is applicable. It's not applicable the same for Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East. It's not. They have different dynamics than us. Geopolitical. It's not necessarily so for any other geopolitical region. That's why my bipolar, not to be confused with bipolarity as in the psychiatric psychological condition, but my bipolar geopolitical strategy for the total BDD, benevolent dominance, dominance and dominion of the 21st century geopolitical environment by the fusion, by the Imperial Republican perpetual union fusion of the United States and Canada via my Trinity of theories is the solution. Of course, that's a bit cratocratic, academic, and intellectual, philosophical in nature, but that is basically the concomitant of the things of which we are remittent about and which we have to be integrating and know fully in all our dictums, in all our philosophies, Carnian, both Republicans, Democrats, and I'm a Democratic Republican, Republican Democrat for the empire. the People's Empire, the Democratic Centrist Empire, and of course the public-private partnership-based 21st century dragon-esque perpetual fusion, because we're gonna fuse Canada and the United States, and with my vision best to fuse. And you know, it's a dragon versus Trump, because dragon versus Trump has been ongoing since 2018 when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. The imposition of tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel was a mistake. To impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, right? Because of that principle. And it's no way to invite us. And it's not 51, Granddaddy Trump. It's gonna be 13. Just like the original 13, these new 13 by Providence is gonna be our coming empire by fusing it. And then we're gonna get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and see who else to do business with us. That's why the Dragon Trump Summit and me fighting Donald Trump, and my dream, the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom from the mountain, here from the mountaintop. That's what we're gonna do, and that's what we're gonna get that loving, you know. So it's just something which we have to be appellating on, and we have to be appellating about that. In a parallel life, I know everything there is to know about these antennas, these satellites, and I create microchips, satellites, sats, microchips, antennas. In a parallel life, of course, I build supercomputers, ICBM rockets, satellites, and everything to do with supercomputers, microchips, and coding, everything to do with science and technology. In that parallel life, I'm also an ASPE, so I know everything there is to know about this antenna. I could spend hours and hours and hours talking about it, and even building antennas. And those little, I think those are 4G, 5G there. 4G, 5G towers. Who owns them? Who operates the 4G, 5G towers? And we got to set up new structures for total security, total service, total defense. And with my brother Bill Gates, Scorpio brother Bill Gates, and public-private partnership to have monitoring of the public sphere 24/7, webcams 24/7, and of course for total security, total service, total defense, the Dragon Army integrated with the citizenry across the 63 in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. Starts with this idea, of course, now as I'm doing my workout training and exercising and geopolitical analysis with that rock and roll for the workers. Please don't be so selfish, millionaires, billionaires. Support the dream. Just fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex, across North America, to fuse Canada and the United States in a manner which is concordiate to where we are in the 21st century now. And of course, due to our several layers of crises, which of course we have reached certain levels of crises in the North American collective in respects and vis-a-vis to our social endeavors. And of course, the fact that we are overly indebted, and we're just gonna go drink some water and come back. And of course, we're gonna hydrate and discuss the DRT, and we're gonna switch a bit of that French because we're in La Belle Province, so we gotta put in the work for the French because we're in La Belle Province. So here's Friday, up the mountain. That's all we got, and that's all we do on the go, and that's what we gotta get for the butchers, bakers, nurses, and the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And that's how we're gonna rock and roll it with that, and that's just how we're gonna get it. See, we got some light in the darkness here in the forest. Be careful because sometimes the trees fall, shed those branches and get their back to health. And of course now there's less, but 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, so many fireflies. I never seen so many fireflies ever in this life atop the mountain as I seen last week. So we always gotta get a little bit of that go and a little bit of that do, and something which of course we gotta be transmissive about, to learn and to do the appellation as we have to, and the appellation as we go, and of course the dynamics as we endeavor to be here on the left and on the right and in the middle, and of course in the circumvision to get it on those who are of course building and building here as I dance the priestess of the goddess here on the temple, the wilderness, my mistress, the mountain, the doctor mountain, the mistress, the forest. And if you venture in the dark, just be careful because branches fall, so the more you're in motion, the more safe you are, of course. And we gotta get a little bit of that, those rabbits which are roaming about, and we got hawks and we got flora, fauna, so don't pollute here. You know, if you are pollute here, we gotta get a little bit of that Mother Nature to give you a little pinch in the butt. So the DRT now, I'm going to discuss the DRT. Super important that I do discuss the DRT because it's of course the DRT which of course has to be discussed, and concomitantly there has to be the discussions of course of the DRT because it's super important where we are now. We got four main problems, economical problems which are pressing, so thus I have to discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. Super important, and of course it is the only solution or something which resembles my DRT theory. Again, keep in mind that I predicted what's happening now, and I have proof. I have proof of work. I got the videos. I got the video from 2019 October November where I discussed this coming geopolitical crisis, this coming international conflagration, aka a World War III type of situation scenario, which I predicted back in 2019. As we go now towards this forest, my mistress, and the mountain, my mistress on the mountain, as we go to appellate, and of course integrating all our being and respectful beings as we are to get it on the drill and get it for those butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, and the plumbers, the electricians, and somebody making love. I saw some people holding hands and kissing and hugging it before, and that always gotta give me a little bit of that gift and that joy. I will never turn down no hugs, kisses. I wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but you know what? Millionaires, billionaires, Wall Street, finance the butchers, finance the firefighters, finance the sanitation workers who pick up the garbage, the recycling, finance them some good massage therapy session. They need it, and they use it more than me, and that's where they gotta be, and that's why we gotta venture out here from the forest on the mountain and gotta discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. Of course, as we have to be appellating, and of course we have to be inducing all the theoretical parlance into practicable action, and it requires a public-private partnership. Now we are facing four main problems. Due to those four main problems, we have to implement my DRT, standing for debt refusion theory, as long as possible, of course, as possible, as much as possible, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, as much as possible, so that's just why we have to do the DRT, debt refusion theory, as much as possible, and that's just how we have to do it, as much as possible, of course, because we are on the point, of course, of conversion, where we are faced now. It could happen Monday, a financial, economic, commercial crash. A financial crash is a possibility on the horizon, to have a financial crash. There's a possibility that there's a financial crash. There's that possibility of a financial crash coming, of course, a financial crash coming, and of course the possibility, of course, that that's the financial crash coming. That's why we have to be doing on the appellation, of course, the financial crash coming on the side of the things of which we are now, to be the four main problems which are facing us collectively, Canada, United States, binationally, are of course these four. So there's no way out of this but the DRT, debt refusion theory, to be of course integrated in the North American collective. So of course you have to listen to attentively. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, is of course something which we have to be doing, of course, in the appellation, on the getting on that drill side of things. So the debt refusion theory is something which we have to be appellating. So of course we have to appellate on, of course, Discord, all the information things which we have on the appellational civilizational matters that we have to be doing on the left side of things. And of course the DRT stands for debt refusion theory, and of course that's what we have to be appellating about, and that's what we have to be concordant about in everything that we are involved with. That the DRT, the debt refusion theory, is something which we have to be concomitant about in all the things in the civilizational aspects of our daily routines and life that we are close now to a public financial collapse due to the fact that 4 main problems affect us. And now I'm gonna get a DRT. Super important. I'm gonna just wait a bit, a few seconds here, of course is the water spilling, and of course I gotta clear that water by 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever the case may be, and that's why we gotta get drilling for that and discuss the DRT, that refusion theory, HYDRAT, hydrate. What are you doing? So the DRT, that's how you have to be doing the DRT, that refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. That's what we have to be doing on the appellation, of course, of all the things, the consequential things of which we have in us, is that, of course, we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. And the public financial collapse is due to 4 main problems for both Canadians and the United States. And of course, that's why I make the statement that my DRT theory has to be implemented for both Canada and the United States. As you can see, the beautiful skyscrapers there. So 4 main problems. We are faced with 4 main problems. 4 main problems we are faced. 4 main problems we are faced. The problem is the growing debt, the growing indebtedness, the growing cost of living, the cost of rents are going up, of course. That is, of course, the problems which we have. So those are 4 main problems which we are faced with. Those 4 main problems, of course, are involved with other problems. So the debt, the growing debt problems is something which we have together, and there's something which we have to be doing on that. So the indebtedness, the credit cards, of course, the credit cards, of course, is something which we have to be doing on that. So the credit cards are keeping, even now somebody's swiping, of course, the credit cards, somebody's getting more in debt. So the credit cards, of course, the credit cards are something which they got, and something which we got to endeavor to, of course, manage, of course, in all the points, of course, where we are now appellated to be. See, there's a lot of people there, and that's what we got, and that's why we got to get drilling on that to get it for those bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians. And that is my favorite skyscraper. And here you can see, you can drink some water, and that's why we got to get that rock and roll. So you got plenty of people now. It's hot, but you can get a little bit of water there. That's my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid, with a skyscraper, and you can see part of the city from here, the Belvedere, Konjanak, headquarters of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. And here we go, we're gonna get on the moving now, and you can come enjoy, stay on the rock, do some exercises, and gaze upon the city. Don't venture out there, because you know it's dangerous, but here you can come and just sit down there, and you got some beautiful gardens here, and of course you got some nice interior, but it's not open. But of course, don't pollute, don't leave trash like that here. Don't leave trash like that here, you know, because gotta get it on the go with that, and because gotta get on those who built this. Look at this. This is really nice. See, look at that. Isn't this gorgeous? This is nice. This is nice, super nice, you know. That's just super nice, you know. Super nice. I just love it. See all the flowers here. Really good job. Good job, workers. I just love it how they did it like that, and it's really nice. Number 1, good job. The embellishment of the city. That's really nice. So back to what I was saying, of course, is that we are now faced with 4 main economic problems. both Canadians and United States, the situation is very similar in economic perspective, financial, commercial perspective. So that's why you have to understand fully that my DRT, the debt refusion theory, is fundamentally for both Canada and United States. For both Canada and the United States, for both Canada and United States, for both Canada and United States, to be implemented simultaneously binationally for both Canada and United States. So it's part of the binational or bipolar. Not to be confused, of course, with the psychiatric, psychological conditions, of course. Has nothing to do with psychology. Has everything to do with, of course, the geopolitical realities of today. And my strategy, the bipolar strategy, is a reference to the bipolar strategy for total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion of the North American collective via implementation of my Trinity of theories, of which is the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The DRT, the debt refusion theory, which includes and integrates in monetary integration theory. So those are the four. So the four main problems, in whatever, of course, whatever the case may be, in four problems. One problem is the growing indebtedness. The credit cards, even now somebody's swiping that credit card. The other problem, in whatever order you want to place these four problems, is fundamentally equilibrated. And you can place them in different orders because it applies for different individuals. But the vast majority of the population, aspies or neurodivergence or not, we face these problems. The growing cost of everyday goods. Everything is going up every day, every week. Prices are increasing, right? So prices are increasing every day. Price of milk, price of butter, price of cheese, price of bacon, price of sweets. My chocolate bars, they used to be 50 cents, now they're 63. That's a 26% increase. The wafers increased from $1 to $1.39. That's 39% increase. The milk increased by $1.10. That was like maybe, that's about 15% or 13 point something percent. So that's another increase. The other things that's increasing, of course, is things such as bus tickets or bus pass. It increased 4.5%. So everyday things are increasing, right? So everything is increasing, including rents. So the rents are increasing as well. The rents, while the salaries are stagnated. So those problems, you can compute, of course, that they are. And where we were here, this is, of course, the main route. You can go by the side there, and you can go in and out, see? So those lights are the city. That's basically the west. You see the lights of the city in the west, but we're going to go east in the forest. We're not going to go down. We're just going to go on the side of the mountain. That's where we go. That's what we're going to get going. So that's what we have, and that's what we're going to get drilling with that, and that's what we're going to get on that drill, to get it on the go. So, of course, this is where we are now. The four main problems. The economic problems, of course, which we're faced. The socioeconomic problems, aspects thereof. We're on the verge of a public financial collapse, eh? And of course, the other problem is also the growing interest which we had to pay due to the programs which we implemented on the public debt during COVID, which of course went up in percentage every year from 2020 to 2025, and our GDP did not. So that's why you saw even 3 weeks ago, it was in the news, that Canada, we're going to have, and it already started, the highest ever job cuts, in modern public service history. Now, what does modern history mean? I would say in the past, since the 50s, 60s, modern, right? Post Second World War, I guess would be modern, or the whole 19th century even. No, the correction, the whole 20th century. That was in the news. That Canada, we're gonna have public service cuts, the worst ever, the biggest ever cuts in the public service sector in modern history. Now, modern history for me would be, I would say that it's in the past 75 years. I would say, if I would be to interpret the word modern, what does it mean in terms of timelines, in terms of the time, right? The decades. It would be since the end of the Second World War. That's how I would say it. So that means that biggest ever cuts are coming in 2025 in the public service. And again, most of it has to do with the COVID programs, of which in 2020 they start to implement to salvage the population. So that's another burden. Plus now for both Canada and the United States, the growing cost of living, the increasing of the rents are increasing, the growing cost of living, the credit cards are debt is a record. Every week there's a record. So the record was broken every year for the past 4 years during COVID, and now this year, and it keeps increasing, right? And the stagnation of the salaries. So those 4 main problems. So there's no way out of this but my DRT theory as the only solution, or something similar to my DRT theory. Something similar to my DRT theory, you know? Something very similar to my DRT theory. Something similar to my DRT theory. Something similar to my DRT theory has to be formulated. Has to be formulated. Something similar to my DRT theory has to be formulated. To my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, which includes monetary integration theory, which was the financial theory, which was implemented in the European Union. Which was implemented in the European Union. So back, of course, we go back to 2019. Back to 2019. Back to 2019. When I predicted the current geopolitical situation, and now in 2025 we're faced with a public financial collapse, whence my DRT theory is the solution. The solution. If not, another theory can be, in theory, the solution, but it has to closely have the fundamentals and the principles, in essence, of my DRT theory. Otherwise it doesn't work. Otherwise it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So that's why we have to be doing, and this is a great spot. I'm just gonna stretch a bit and gaze a little bit on my favorite skyscraper, that pyramid. Let's build the 4, the pyramid, House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, Crimson or Scarlet are shades of red. The North American People's Imperial Coliseum, which I will to build on the Canadian-US border, to inaugurated by me fighting Donald Trump, and which is going to be the biggest ever sports arena complex Coliseum ever built in the history of the world on the Canadian-US border. Is going to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Before the Caesar Superdome was known as the Mercedes-Benz, and prior to that it was known as the Louisiana Superdome, as I changed my name several times, and that's arena changed the name several times, where one of my favorite Super Bowls occurred. Of course, Hardball Ball, aka Super Bowl 47, where my 49ers lost by 3, and it's also known as the Bro Bowl, Hardball Ball, aka Blackout Ball. It's one of my top 5 Super Bowls, paradoxically, where the 49ers lost, and with 3 points to the Ravens, because I'm a 49er. Give some charity, NFL, NHL, NBA, multimillionaires, billionaires, owners. Those who own the sports leagues, give some financing for the women's, blah, blah, blah. For the women's sports leagues, give 5%, 10% would be preferred, but a good 5% is a good way to start, you know. At least start with 1%. Don't be so selfish. Finance the tickets for the public sanitation workers and the butchers, and for those who pick up the garbage, the compost, public sanitation workers, finance them a little bit of that good, and get a little bit of that rock and roll with it, and get a little bit of that sanitation, and get a little bit of that firefighters to get some tickets. And of course, tough economic times, my DRT, debt refusion theory, is the solution. There's no way but the DRT, the debt refusion theory. Beautiful place here as we got. Stretch a little bit and we're gonna get that DRT discussed. I'm stretching a bit left and right, my legs here, because you got some bars here. You can't really see the bars, but see, I can show you a bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm stretching a bit. See, so you got these bars, so I'm gonna stretch my legs a bit, and we're gonna discuss the DRT. So I'm gonna put my legs right here like that, and just gonna stretch a bit, or there, and put my leg and see, stretch, go up and down. So that's how you're gonna see these movements, and switch my leg and put the left on the right, and the right on the leg there, and do a little bit of that stretching. So the DRT explained the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000. We're gonna, of course, convert all the Canadian public private debt into the United States debt. We're gonna, of course, add it with the United States dollar debt. That money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank, and of course, for this new central bank, the Imperial Central Bank, which we're gonna credit and create this new currency based on all the value of the current value of the United States dollar. When we do it, supposedly let's do it September 11th, right here from the mountain. This new table and new two Imperial Republican Constitution amendments to be signed for the perpetual union of Canada and the United States in the future, and create the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.Unit, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.Unit, the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.Unit. The universal exchange will have the value of the US dollar. We're gonna do lots of good with that. We're going to rebuild the infrastructure, build the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, mass structures, of course, across the empire, across the 63 in order to withstand nuclear war, and of course to build these massive underground tunnel structures by the DRT. We're going to mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise. We're going to get rid of the border, create a common passport, finance the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka Imperial SSD, Legion for Security Service and Defense only on solely coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and assistance to build those 44 tunnels, and of course the North American Integrated Dance League, aka the Dancing Goddess Army, to dance for the environment, for social environmental education. That's what we're gonna be doing, and that's what we're gonna be rock and rolling with, the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, sometimes, which of course we have to get doing, and that's what we're gonna get on that go for that, to get doing on the transmutation and pledge your allegiance to our family. We're gonna rebuild the infrastructure of the North American Collective by the DRT. Time to fly from here and continue my march and keep on discussing the DRT, the debt refusion theory again. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000, your $10,000, all the debt, public and private, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. My $10,000, all the Canadian public private debt, including my $10,000. I don't have credit cards myself. I have $10,000 in debt to the RBC, and of course we're gonna convert it coast to coast, ocean to ocean. All the public and the private debt, we're gonna convert it, add it with the United States public private debt. All that money, is gonna be the initial money supply for this new central bank, whatever we call the central bank, Imperial Central Bank, because remember, inside my DRT, debt refusion theory, is integrated monetary integration theory, which is of course the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union in the 90s. The Germans, the Italians, the French, Belgians in Belgium, not just those four countries but other countries in Europe in the 90s, they destroyed their central banks. They created a common central bank in the 90s, and they issued the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit now, and of course that's what they do, and that's what they created, the euro and the ECB. They destroyed their national central banks. Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, other countries, they no longer have national central banks. They have a multinational central bank. So this ECB, the European Central Bank, functions as a central bank for many countries. So us, we're gonna start with doing binational. Canada, United States, we're gonna create this new Imperial Republic Bank, central bank, and of course the Imperial Republic Central Bank, we're going to issue the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. With this UE, we're going to build, we have to start building those 44 tunnels ASAP, and that's where we're going to have to appeal to our brothers and sisters who have lost their liberty to accept the deal of the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act in order to build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Those tunnels are going to be inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, the Montreal Underground Village, and of course the Montreal Underground Village, and of course the 40. Paradoxically, I'm no fan, no supporter of Hamas, but they build massive hundreds of miles, between 350 miles and 600 miles or kilometers, hundreds of miles and hundreds of kilometers underneath Gaza. They build tunnels. So inspired by that, but we're going to build 44 massive systems of tunnels, 44 massive systems of tunnels across Canada, United States, in case of a thermonuclear war, and where we could salvage a certain percentage of the population. I envision about 4%. That's going to be millions, because of Canada, United States joint is millions. 4% is millions, at least the youngest, some of the elder as well, but we're going to have to prioritize our children, our youth, right? Adolescents are going to have to be trained. If we're going to have to train our adolescents, those between 11 and 22, because they're gonna be the majority, and they're gonna be able to operate the tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, and ration food and have a structure. I have it developed because I started writing it actually I think circa 2018, 2019 mostly, after I developed my scenario, which I concluded that we are headed towards what we're living now, the World War III knocking at our door. I predicted this back in 2019 October. I have the proof. I have the videos online. I developed creative workout training program system. That's what I do. Geopolitics, sports, fitness, rock and roll. That has been so for years and years and years. Independent work. And I'm all about Arbeit. Friends with benefits only, or pledge your allegiance. Support my dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom is basically the fusion, perpetual imperial fusion, which we're going to sign these constitutional amendments to create a new constitution, when we're going to fuse the 10 provinces, 3 territories of Canada and the United States, and by the DRT and the creation of the UA, we're going to have to rehabilitate lots of the population, rehabilitate the aqueducts, the sewers, the bridges, and mass invest in the public services for SSD, public services, rehabilitation, and rebuild the bridges, the hospitals, and mass finance fitness, because fitness is great for mental health, bodily health, and mass finance fitness. Sometimes you see a little bit on the bike there, my fellow citizen, cousins, aunts, because Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, you're my family, so that's how we rock and roll, and the individual and the collective, and we're gonna mass finance tourism as well, Imperial tourism across the 10 to 50, and we're gonna of course create the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, and of course the Dragon Army, of course the integrated security and service and defense Imperial Legion, the Imperial SSD Legions, when we're going to fuse Canada and United States, and we're going to secure coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and mass finance, and going to open up for the Dragon Army and the Dancing Goddess Army all transportation, buses and trains, to include mass events, and of course to do tourism, to establish a strong imperial esprit de corps, a strong imperial esprit de corps with fellow citizens, and that's what we have to do, and that's what we have to move, and it requires a public-private partnership, and of course it's pledge your allegiance. That's how we rock and roll, and that's how we do, and that's just how we do it from now on, from the headquarters of the Dancing and the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, the Empire here, the headquarters, from the forest, the mistress. On the mountain, I hear some of that good music before the Sabbath. Sabbath starts at midnight, so we're going to be dancing and resting. It's my march before the Sabbath. The Sabbath of the Empire will be from Friday at midnight, 1 second into Saturday, until Sunday sunset, for mass rehabilitation, mass recreation, and going to let our youth, our younglings, the children of the Empire, channel the aggression with push-ups and hugs and dancing. Consent. LOVE. Adrian, Dragons, my children, Canadians, Quebecers, brothers and sisters in the USA, my children here from the Empire of the Mountain. I'm gonna mass militarize for SSD, and the Dragon Army is gonna integrate with all existing police services, security services, all armies, and all security services. Based on my philosophies, one of it included the new 911 protocols, new 911 Dragon North American protocols for total S, total security, total service, total defense, in parallel, conjointly, with, of course, the Dancing Goddess Army, with all universities, all sports, all universities, all sports, all faculties. A massive public-private partnership is required. I got trillions of kisses laying the foundations for the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, for the perpetual Imperial Union, of the Empire, with 718 trillions of kisses. 700 trillions of kisses credited from the forgotten goddess. 718 trillions of kisses credited from the forgotten goddess, as we are of course together, and we're gonna mass finance sports activities and mass finance the building of the North American Imperial People's Coliseum, aka the Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, where it's me and Donald Trump are gonna inaugurate by fighting in a sportsmanship boxing match. Maybe Granddaddy Trump is gonna knock me out a few times, but I might get back up because he's a toughie, and I don't support Donald Trump. Granddaddy Trump's policies, not the way to invite us, but inviting us to the union is I invite us both to my way of uniting the Imperial Republican Democratic Empire way, public-private partnership way, by my CIT Citizen Integration Tree, the DRT Debt Refusion Tree, and the CIT Citizen Integration Tree, DRT Debt Refusion Tree, and the DFT Democratic Fusion Tree, something which we have to be doing, and something which we have to be informative about, and something which we have to be appellate, and something which we have to be conclusive about, and something which we have to be totally inclusive about all the nomems of which we are now faced with, the four economic problems of which I have aforementioned and discussed, and the fact that we are on the verge of a public and private financial collapse. Could happen Monday, the 28th of July, 28th of July, Monday morning, economic crash on the 28th, 29th, or 30th, or I don't know, even after the first week, second week, August. If the tariffs, 35% tariffs hit, we already hit, let's be realistic. 75% of our exports go to the United States, between 75% and 90%. The king is absent, my fellow Canadians. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. It's time for the perpetual Imperial Union. For the perpetual Imperial Union. For this new concordiate from the mountain and the Canadian mountain to appellate and of course consummate all the things of which we are in the civilizational nature, of which we totally are, in the degrees of which we are, in the degrees of which our wellness and well-being and categories are, to of course be protrudent about all the elements of which we are together in this new concordiate, to appellate fully and dynamitry, and of course to fully absorb each, strengthen each other. We're gonna fuse the north and the south, the north and the south. So we're gonna fuse north, true north, strong and free, with the land of the free, the south, 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 home of the brave, land of the free, home of the brave. Here north, we're land of true north, strong and free, but strong and free, we both got free in it. So we might as well say the empire is gonna be of the strong, of the free, of the brave, but that's not enough for me. You gotta add that, and the fucking loving, and the fucking loving, and the fucking loving, and the fucking loving. Gotta add that as well, because otherwise what are we fighting for? Because the empire, somebody make it black, white, or rainbow, homosexual, lesbian, all sorts of good loving and lusting, and if you're black, white, black, man, or woman, play that androgynous pansexual 50-50, and if you don't love me or whatever, I fight my own battles. Donald Trump first in a boxing rink or dancing is my favorite sport, and I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I do not like violence, but I am hyper vigilant. I live with my scars, with my trauma, and the empire. We're gonna play that defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the dragon army, dancing goddess army, and when we fuse, we're gonna let them come to us, see what they want, with the empire of the free, the brave, the strong, and the fucking loving. So we're gonna add that LOV. Pledge your allegiance ain't all about the money. We're gonna get some cadence, and that's the DRT debt refusion theory. We have to implement it. There's just no way out of what situation we are now, but the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, That's just how we have to proceed and move because of the four main problems that I aforementioned. The growing cost of living, everyday goods, from the bread and the cheese and the milk and the wafers, to the increasing credit card debt, to the rents, and of course the fourth dimension, to the rents, the cost of living, with the rents, the growing cost of debt, the rents, the growing cost of debt, rents, debt, rents, debt, rents, debt, stagnation of the salaries, the debt, the stagnation of the salaries, and of course the fourth problem is the growing indebtedness, stagnation of the salaries, growing rents, and growing cost of living. Those four, we have no choice but to implement the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. That's just how we have to do it, to do it on the Concordia, and we're going to have to establish great mass places where across the 63 citizens will go, and we got to know everything that's coming in and out from the ports and the airports. We're going to get rid of the border, create a common passport, create this new perpetual Imperial Union. It's going to be constitutional amendments. We're going to fuse the constitutions and get those amendments and the bills, and we're going to mass finance healthcare, mass finance tourism, mass finance fitness, build the fort, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than where the Harbor Ball was played, aka Blackout Ball, to be immense. The pyramid, House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, Red, and Forgotten Goddess, GODDSS. I goddess it every day. I credit my surviving COVID, being depressed and suicidal, and all the scars, trauma to the GODDSS, Forgotten Goddess. And of course, parallel the Forgotten Goddess will of course be the building of the Forgotten Goddess Temple. We're gonna build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. We're gonna build, of course, the Imperial People's Coliseum. We're gonna build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Imperial People's Coliseum. We're gonna build, of course, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community. Pledge your allegiance, dans our family. En français, bienvenue. On voit le point rouge. Je suis sur la montagne québécoise. Je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. J'adore venir ici, sur le Mont-Royal. Ma maîtresse, la déesse, la forêt, c'est les cheveux de la déesse que je chante au le rock'n'roll. Vous savez que je vous regarde de la pointe de la rouge dans l'eau, dans le ciel. C'est une antenne de radio et de télévision, j'imagine. Je suis pas 100%, ben j'en connais un peu, c'est sûr, mais c'est sûr que moi, mon domaine, c'est le rock'n'roll, le sport, l'entraînement physique, soit la danse. La danse, c'est le sport que je préfère. Et bien sûr, aussi, la géopolitique. C'est ma unité d'intérêt spéciaux, fait que c'est ça que je fais au quotidien, bien sûr. Fait que je vois mon cousin qui est sur la bicyclette, un cycliste, des fois de temps en temps, qui viennent. Fait que je me tasse un peu, puis s'il s'approche, je vais aller dire que, oh, attention, je suis devant vous, pour qu'il me voie, mais je pense qu'il a vu la lumière de mon téléphone avec lequel je fais ce vlog. Ce travail, mon travail en tant que YouTuber, artiste, athlète, philosophe, analyste et théoricien en géopolitique qui vit avec la condition de neurodivergence, ça a été toute une aventure. Accepter finalement, il y a 3 ans et demi durant la COVID, que oui, j'ai l'Asperger's, je suis différent, donc ça explique bien des problèmes que j'ai vécu dans ma vie, des situations, puis la perte d'emploi, la perte d'amis, juste pour vous dire, j'ai, depuis maintenant, aujourd'hui, on est le 25 juillet, des amis avec bénéfice seulement, 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 prêter allégeance, légion, visite famille, ou bien sûr, ma vision pour la fondation de Nouvelle Concordat du 20e siècle, le royaume de la déesse du dragon qui danse, qui est mon rêve, est fondamentalement, principalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé d'une manière centriste, puis d'une manière du 21e siècle, par mes protocoles et mes stratégies bipolaires pour la géopolitique domination, puis bénévole, domination totale bénévole, par la fusion du Canada et des États-Unis dans un concordat géopolitique. C'est là, quand je fais référence à la stratégie bipolaire, c'est ça n'a rien à voir avec la psychiatrie, la psychologie, ça a tout à fait à voir avec la stratégie de la géopolitique. Puis bien sûr, quand je discute de la géopolitique, il faut que vous compreniez que c'est ça mon intérêt spécial aussi. C'est aussi connu comme obsessif chez nous, les Asperger. Ça fait que des fois, c'est possible que j'arrête pas. Fait que si on se rend compte des fois, peut-être vous savoir que vous me dites je suis pas intéressé vraiment à la géopolitique, je connais pas bien, je connais l'hockey, je connais les arts, je connais l'histoire, d'autres choses comme ça, mais c'est sûr que l'histoire, ça s'intègre bien sûr, dans la géopolitique. Fait que moi, j'ai l'Asperger's. C'est quoi l'Asperger's? C'est une condition de neurodivergence. Ce n'est pas une maladie mentale. Ça fait que nous, les Aspies, on constitue un pourcentage de la population très petit. Il y a bien des citoyens et concitoyennes qui ne savent même pas c'est quoi l'Asperger's. Nous, on est moins d'1%. On est la moitié d'un pourcentage. On est 0,44%. 0,44%. Fait que 0,44%, c'est pas bien, c'est 0,44% des citoyens et concitoyennes qui ont l'Asperger's, aussi connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Donc, vous savez déjà qu'il n'y en a pas bien des gens qui ont l'Asperger's. C'est une condition de neurodivergence. Notre cerveau, chez les Aspies, ils ont certaines mutations. C'est sûr que ces mutations-là ne sont pas visibles de l'extérieur. Ça ne sort pas du crâne, du cerveau. C'est pas visible. C'est à l'intérieur, au niveau microscopique. Pensez-y comme, tu sais, sur les micropuces, les transistors, c'est des petits au niveau microscopique, tu sais. Fait que c'est la mutation, puis encore une fois, mais il n'y a pas vraiment, on ne sait pas vraiment exactement la cause. C'est encore une mode de recherche, là, c'est encore la question ouverte. C'est-tu héréditaire, biologique, génétique à 100% ou c'est l'environnement? Il y en a que c'est possible que ça soit des deux, de l'environnement, puis ça soit génétique aussi, l'Asperger's. Mais il n'y en a pas bien des Aspies, c'est bien moins. Je fais partie aussi de la communauté LGBTQ, je suis androgyne pansexuel. Messieurs, madame, vu que je crois à des réincarnations, des fois j'étais né homme, femme, ici, direct sur l'île de Montréal, là, dans une autre vie. En tant que femme, j'ai vécu entre 1688 à Montréal, ça s'appelait la Ville-Marie, entre 1688 et 1735. Bien, à part les réincarnations, aujourd'hui, je vis avec étant mystique et philosophe et artiste, et bien sûr avec Asperger's, donc dans certaines choses de sociaux, de la communication sociale, les engagements sociaux, des choses comme ça peut être plus difficile pour nous, les Asperger's, parce que à cause de ces mutations, nous, on voit le monde différemment, puis notre activité, notre routine rituelle, ça se tourne autour de ses intérêts spéciaux. Puis autour de ses intérêts spéciaux, bien sûr, ça se tourne autour de ses intérêts spéciaux. On peut être très intense, très engagé, très concentré quand on travaille dans ses intérêts spéciaux. Quand on s'engage, quand on étudie. Puis moi, par exemple, analyste intéressé en géopolitique, c'est sûr que je fais du travail, puis j'ai fait bien des années de travail en analyse indépendante, puis du développement de la stratégie géopolitique. La stratégie, bien sûr, pour vis-à-vis, en tant que je suis Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, c'est sûr que je m'aventure. Quand la géopolitique, ça requiert une aventure internationale, globale, mondiale, mais ça reste vraiment que je suis Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, puis j'ai pas vraiment d'expérience directe d'avoir vécu dans des places où il y a des conflits, par exemple la Russie, l'Ukraine, au Moyen-Orient, Israël, Palestine, la Syrie, en Inde, puis le Pakistan, même au Taïwan puis la Chine. C'est sûr que je connais ces conflits-là. Je connais l'histoire, je connais leur politique, leur idéologie respective, leur histoire, le conflit, tout ça, ce qui se passe dans le monde de la géopolitique 24/24 chez nous. C'est ça, c'est 24/24 la géopolitique, le rock'n'roll, la danse, l'entraînement physique. Fait que ces trois choses-là, ça préoccupe tellement avec intensité tout mon quotidien avec routine, tu sais. Fait que c'est ça que chez les Aspies, c'est des intérêts spéciaux. Les gens, ils ont tendance à dire encore des intérêts obsessifs, mais c'est pas une obsession dans le temps que vous, les 99,56%, les neurotypiques avec lesquels nous, les neurodivergents, les 0,44% d'Asperger, je dois toujours bâtir des ponts, des petits ponts, des ponts qui sont moyens, en grandeur, je parle, ou des ponts plus des gros, ou des extra larges. C'est sûr que dans ces 4 catégories, il peut y avoir des sous-catégories, comme 3-4 sous-catégories dans ces 4 catégories majeures de petits, moyens, larges, extra larges. Comme quand vous achetez un café ou un jus, tu sais, je fais un restaurant, là, des choses comme ça. Je fais une référence, c'est sûr qu'il y a des ponts qui sont petits, des ponts qui sont moyens, des ponts qui sont gros, des ponts qui sont extra larges. Fait que ça dépend de l'individu avec lequel on bâtit ces ponts-là, mais il faut qu'on les construise. Il faut qu'on bâtisse ces ponts-là, tu sais. Fait qu'il faut qu'on bâtisse ces ponts-là. Ces ponts-là, bien sûr, des fois, ils peuvent être différents dans grandeur. Ça dépend. Avec certains individus. Il n'y a pas de médicaments pour les Aspergers comme moi, les Aspi comme moi. Il faut juste que je fasse la gestion de certaines caractéristiques qui peuvent empêcher de construire ces ponts-là, tels que répéter les phrases, ou les coller, répéter exactement mot à mot, quand on dit en latin, verbatim par verbatim, qu'est-ce que quelqu'un va dire, par exemple. Et bien sûr, se rapprocher trop proche. Tu sais, l'espace personnel, là, on a tendance à briser à cause de ces mutations, à cause comment que nous, on est différents. Ces choses-là de la société, les normes non écrites, ces choses-là, il ne faut pas... Ces choses-là, mais... Ces choses-là, ça rend plus difficile. C'est plus difficile pour nous. Parce que notre routine rituelle, ça se tourne autour de ces intérêts spéciaux, mais à cause de ces intérêts spéciaux, avec de cette intensité, concentration, qu'on passe des heures par jour en faisant, en travaillant, en étudiant ou en s'engageant dans ces intérêts spéciaux, ça empêche un peu, puis c'est au détriment un peu d'autres choses, telles la socialisation et des choses de la société. Fait que moi, je ne serais pas si bon vraiment, peut-être dans une équipe, mais je serais bon en tant que plus arbitre. Tu sais, peut-être arbitre ou du point de vue du développement des philosophies plus intellectuelles, mais quand même, je suis quand même bon dans la géopolitique. Fait que même que je dois dire, parce que c'est ça mon domaine, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant, hein. J'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant en 2019. Du point de vue de la géopolitique, j'ai prévu bien sûr en 2019. J'ai prévu bien sûr qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant dans la géopolitique en 2019. En octobre, en novembre, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Tu sais, en octobre, en novembre, j'avais prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant de la manière de la géopolitique, que bien sûr, je dois te parler de ça avant que je commence dans la TRD. Fait que je prends beaucoup de fierté dans mon travail indépendant en géopolitique et aussi en tant qu'artiste, même si, comme bien des aspis, j'ai de la misère dans certaines choses, c'est ça le problème. Fait que, pour dire, les trois problèmes que chez les Aspergers, les trois problèmes majeurs, c'est le manque d'amis. Pour ça, aujourd'hui, on est le 25 juillet 2025. Vous ne voulez pas perdre votre temps à personne. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Prêtez allégeance légion. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Prêtez allégeance légion. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Prêtez allégeance légion. Vous êtes famille. Aussi, bien sûr, le problème, c'est la dépression et le suicide. J'ai vécu ça moi-même. 9 fois plus élevé, puis tenez compte qu'on est une petite minorité de même pas 1%, là, les gens qui ont l'Asperger comparé à vous, les 99,56%, la grosse majorité. Là. C'est ça le problème, j'ai vécu ça. Quand j'ai traversé le Canada en 2017, parce que j'étais en dépression une couple d'années, c'est ça qui m'a sauvé, moi, qui m'a comme illuminé, là, puis j'ai eu comme un réveil, puis depuis ce temps-là, j'ai commencé à m'entraîner, puis à continuer mon travail, puis cet événement, là, traverser le Canada de côte à côte, ça m'a vraiment fait fonder un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, le Canada, les États-Unis, puis l'Amérique du Nord, que je vous considère comme famille, fait que j'en vous considère comme famille, bien sûr, bien sûr que c'est quelque chose que je leur dis pour en faire, bien sûr, en boire, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence, en m'hydrater un peu ici avec de l'eau, c'est quelque chose que je vais continuer à faire, le dialogue vis-à-vis de l'Asperger. Et l'autre problème, c'est qui est inacceptable, c'est le taux de chômage de sans-emploi. Moi-même, j'ai eu bien de l'emploi, j'ai aimé. J'ai eu travaillé comme 2-3 semaines, 3 mois, 4 mois dans certains domaines, mais surtout durant la COVID, j'ai bien aimé travailler avec les aînés dans CSSLD, mais bien d'autres travaux que j'ai fait moi-même, c'est quelque chose que j'ai aimé, mais malheureusement, chez les Aspergers, c'est un taux de chômage complètement inacceptable. On est à 80% de sans-emploi. 80, là, 4 sur 5. C'est inacceptable, hein? 4 sur 5, 80%. Là. Je m'hydrate un peu. 80%. Là. Eh bien, chose là, mais qu'il faut qu'on dise, bien sûr, dans ce point de confirmation qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, à faire une analyse, puis bien sûr, à faire le développement de ces stratégies de la géopolitique, car moi-même, c'est ça mon domaine, c'est ça mon intérêt. Bien sûr que j'ai pas d'études universitaires, j'ai gradué le secondaire, mais c'est ma mémoire. Si vous me demandez ma vie avant le printemps 2014, là, je m'en souviens bien, les 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, après 11, ça devient un peu comme une amnésie. J'ai la misère à me souvenir de ma vie avant le printemps 2014. Je me souviens avoir été vivre dans une petite place avec comme beaucoup de moisissures. Beaucoup de moisissures dans une place, bien sûr qu'il y avait beaucoup de moisissures, puis à côte de neige, puis bien sûr j'étais du tronc, je me suis fait attaquer par surprise, j'étais tout ensanglé, puis je te connais ma tête par terre, j'avais le bras droit disloqué, bien sûr, fait que j'étais allé bien sûr pour le faire dans l'affaire d'avoir de la situation, bien sûr, pour le faire, bien sûr. À l'hôpital général juif, j'étais allé parce que j'avais le bras droit disloqué, j'étais tout ensanglé, fait qu'ils m'ont recraqué le bras droit, l'épaule disloquée, fait que j'étais mis sur des médicaments pour la douleur, là, puis j'étais comme dans un coma, tu sais. J'étais comme dans un coma, bien sûr. J'étais comme dans un coma, bien sûr, dans ce avoir faire dans un coma, fait que j'ai de la misère à me souvenir de ma vie avant ça, puis je me souviens comme cette trompe-là, fait que c'est pas le plus important, ça, c'est important qu'est-ce que j'ai vécu, puis comment j'ai sorti de ma dépression, puis qu'est-ce que je suis maintenant ces dernières années, bien sûr que j'ai survécu la COVID en février, entre mi-février 2020 puis mars 2020, j'ai eu la COVID, fait que je dis toujours, bien sûr, c'est important de garder les protocoles, tu sais, d'hygiène, là, les protocoles hygiéniques de la COVID, je pense que c'est quelque chose qu'il faut prendre d'importance, fait que c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, que vous devrez le faire, je vous conseille, bien sûr, le plus possible, dans le public, de vous laver les mains, puis vous désinfecter, parce qu'il y a des microbes, des germes, puis des bactéries, lesquelles qu'il faut qu'on fasse attention le plus possible. Ça fait que c'est juste ça que je vous demande un petit mot, parce que moi, je veux rien retourner en arrière. Là. Je suis juste en crise financière maintenant, juste en stress financier. À part ça, je suis jovial, joyeux. Là. J'ai parvécu un long chemin à en battre, puis à avoir vécu avec la dépression, le suicide, toutes les choses que j'ai vécues moi-même, toutes les choses que je suis bien sûr à avoir vivre, toutes les choses que j'ai faites, toutes les choses que ça nous donne maintenant à me rendre ici. C'est sûr que j'ai des fautes, j'ai des cicatrices, mais je suis pas parfait, mais je dis quand même j'ai une sens de la justice, une philosophie, mais je vis avec cette condition de neurodivergence. Il n'y a pas de médicaments pour l'Asperger, donc je fais juste le plus possible travailler sur les caractéristiques. Fait que là, je vais vous parler qu'est-ce qui est le plus important, parce que le reste, c'est un peu pas si important, mais c'est le plus important vis-à-vis de mon travail. Fait que là, je vais vous parler un peu du travail de la géopolitique, lequel que je retourne un peu en arrière en 2019, en octobre-novembre 2019, bien sûr. En 2019, octobre-novembre, j'ai prévu qu'il y aura bien sûr une escalation, qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale, qu'il y aura bien sûr une conflagration internationale, fait que bien sûr conflagration internationale là, en octobre 2019. En octobre 2019, bien sûr, en octobre 2019, j'ai vécu, bien sûr, j'ai fait des analyses profondes, comme je fais à chaque fin d'année, puis je suis arrivé à la conclusion qu'on se dirige vers une conflagration internationale. C'est des choses que j'avais faites comme conclusion en 2019, en octobre-novembre. Fait que j'avais conclu qu'on se dirige vers une conflagration internationale, soit une troisième guerre mondiale en octobre-novembre 2019. J'ai la preuve pour celle-là, j'ai la vidéo en ligne. Puis j'ai même créé un système d'entraînement physique que moi-même j'ai performé, puis j'ai conclu, j'ai fait plus que 372 des sessions, puis depuis que j'ai sorti de ma dépression, je me suis entraîné, j'ai perdu entre 80 et 93 livres. Entre 80 et 93 livres, entre 80 et 93 livres. Fait que bien sûr, dans ce sens où que je vis, bien sûr, entre 80 et 93 livres, c'est des choses, bien sûr, que moi-même, j'ai vécu à vivre, puis en étant ici dans cette situation, bien sûr, où que je le suis, où que je vis, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence, où que je vis, bien sûr, aujourd'hui, c'est quelque chose que je dois toujours dire dans cette manière de vivre ensemble pour qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, à vivre ensemble sur la théorie, la philosophie de laquelle on vit maintenant, qu'il faut se diriger vers cette alliance, cette union avec les États-Unis. Du point de vue de la géopolitique seulement, fait que c'est bien sûr un point de contingence, un point de compromis qu'on doit faire dans les points de compromis où qu'on se dirige puis qu'on aille à faire face à ces points de crise économique, puis bien sûr c'est une crise économique bien sûr qui nous font que bien sûr on se dirige vers ce point de contingence où je le fais bien sûr dans cet environnement, ou que je le fais bien sûr dans cet environnement de vivre avec vous. Les neurotypiques bien sûr c'est de vivre avec les neurotypiques bien sûr, puis bien sûr c'est la géopolitique qui est mon domaine, fait que je vais vous en parler de la géopolitique maintenant. En 2019, j'ai prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. En octobre, novembre 2019, j'ai prévu qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale, tu sais. Fait que Fait que j'ai prévu bien sûr qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Je l'ai prévu en 2019, en octobre. En octobre 2019. Bonsoir. They're missing the point. It's not the end. You see? Fait que c'est ça la situation, la géopolitique actuelle, bien sûr. Ça fait qu'on doit faire, bien sûr, dans ce compromis, bien sûr, ou qu'on fasse un compromis linguistique. No need. You have no need. You have no need. Enough of human validation. Enough of praise. Strong. You have no need, man. Fait que dans la géopolitique, il faut comprendre qu'aujourd'hui, on se dirige vers une troisième guerre mondiale. Fait que c'est pour ça la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, pour la création d'une unité d'échange universelle, c'est la solution en conséquence. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution vraiment. Quelque chose qui ressemble à TRD est associé à cause des 4 problèmes majeurs économiques. Les finances, pour la majorité des gens au Canada et aux États-Unis, ça va pas si bien. Fait que c'est pour ça, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on le fait de la manière qu'on se dirige vers cette troisième guerre mondiale. C'est quelque chose qu'on doit le faire dans ce point de conséquence pour vivre, bien sûr, dans ce point de système pour les voir où qu'on habite ensemble avec les États-Unis. Puis la réalité que je vais dire maintenant, du point de vue de la géopolitique, cette déclaration, il faut que vous dites oui à ça. Il n'y a pas de non, il n'y a pas de peut-être. Puis ça s'applique réciproque pour le Canada et les États-Unis. Tenez compte encore que j'ai prévu la situation actuelle en 2019, en octobre-novembre, d'une manière générale. C'est sûr que je n'ai pas prévu par chaque détail, comment que ça va se passer, mais d'une manière générale, j'ai prévu la situation actuelle. C'est pour ça qu'il faut que vous tenez compte de cela. Vous tenez compte de ça. Fait que bien sûr, en ayant bien sûr prédit la situation actuelle, c'est quelque chose que je dois dire que cette déclaration, fait ce que je vais faire maintenant, vous devrez dire oui. Il n'y a pas de non, il n'y a pas de peut-être. Fait que dans ce point de convergence, bien sûr que je fais bien sûr dans ce point de convergence aujourd'hui que nous, les Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, nos frères et sœurs aux États-Unis, notre intérêt principalement, là, nous, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, sociales, culturelles avec les États-Unis. Il n'y a pas de non. Vous devrez dire oui à ça. À cause de notre histoire, notre destin, puis le fait géographique de côte à côte qu'on a 2 océans, l'Atlantique et le Pacifique. Fait qu'il n'y a pas de non, vous comprenez? On ne peut pas dire non. C'est oui, 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 oui. Il n'y a pas de peut-être. Non, il y a dans le jeu politique, nous, là, notre intérêt quand ça vient à la politique externe, je ne parle pas de la politique domestique à l'intérieur du Canada. Là, en première place, fondamentalement, quand ça vient à la politique externe, nous, là, toutes nos énergies principales, notre politique principale à l'extérieur, puis vice-versa pour les États-Unis, envers nous, le Québec, le Canada, le Québec, envers nous, c'est réciproque. Le Canada, les États-Unis, doit être de dire que c'est fondamentalement d'avoir les meilleures relations ensemble, les meilleures relations ensemble avec les États-Unis, Vous comprenez? Fait que c'est juste ça qu'il faut dire oui. Il faut dire oui à ça. Il n'y a pas de non à ça. Il n'y a pas de peut-être. Vous comprenez? C'est oui, 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 oui. Il n'y a pas de peut-être. Il n'y a pas de non. C'est ça qui est ça. C'est la solution. C'est la solution, bien sûr, exactement interne. Il n'y a pas de non. Il n'y a pas de peut-être. C'est notre intérêt principal. Le roi est absent, c'est le temps pour la République, vous comprenez? On ne peut pas dire non à ça, on ne peut pas dire peut-être. En première place, quand ça vient là, à la politique externe, que nous, il faut qu'on vise, qu'on ait les meilleures relations économiques, financières, commerciales, de défense, de sécurité socioculturelle avec les États-Unis. Il Il n'y a pas de non, il n'y a pas de peut-être. C'est oui, 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 oui. Puis c'est réciproque pour les États-Unis envers nous, par exemple. Fait que c'est pas juste nous envers les États-Unis, mais les États-Unis envers nous. Même si eux autres, ils ont quand même une frontière avec le Mexique. Mais que ça s'applique réciproque. Ça s'appliquait, bien sûr, on va dire, depuis 1950, on va dire environ après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, parce qu'avant la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, c'est sûr que l'Empire britannique, il était encore le plus puissant pendant longtemps, avant les années, la partition de l'Inde, puis la dissolution de l'Empire britannique. Ça a exercé encore, bien sûr, beaucoup de puissance, même sur le Canada avant 1980, plus que maintenant, de moins en moins, même si, quand même, le roi est venu pour la première fois en 50 ans, le monarque de l'Angleterre, pour le discours du trône. Ben, en tout cas, le roi est absent, mais c'est le temps pour la République. On aurait dû finir avec ça bien longtemps, je pense. À la fin du 20e siècle, au début du 21e siècle, on aurait dû finir ça fait longtemps avec le roi, tout ça. Mais, on aurait dû avoir une république, ça fait longtemps, mais bon. OK. Fait que notre intérêt principal, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. entre 75 et 90% de nos exportations vont aux États-Unis. Vous comprenez? Vont aux États-Unis. Fait que c'est dans ce point de vue, bien sûr, que je dois le dire dans la même phrase, que c'est ça qu'on doit faire. Il n'y a pas de non, il n'y a pas de peut-être à ça. Il y a oui, 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 oui. Cette déclaration géopolitique, sinon, c'est pas de la géopolitique réelle. Ça, c'est la real géopolitique. Cette déclaration, tous, de la gauche, de la droite, du centre, centre-gauche, centre-droite, vous devrez dire oui du point de vue nord-américain. Je ne vous parle pas des extrêmes gauche, extrême droite, là. Ça, laissez faire. La droite, la gauche, le centre-gauche, la centre-droite. C'est 5 inclinaisons politiques. Centre, centre-gauche, centre-droite, droite ou gauche. Pas d'extrême droite, pas d'extrême gauche, là. On laisse faire ça dans cette analyse, par exemple. Ça, je ne m'adresse pas là de ça. OK? Fait que d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. En géopolitique. Principalement, fondamentalement, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations ensemble. Il n'y a pas de non, il n'y a pas de peut-être. Il y a juste oui. C'est ça. C'est ça qui est ça. Fait que fondamentalement, c'est ça. Si vous dites oui, on peut avancer dans une discussion profonde des solutions qui se trouvent, telles que la TRD, parce que sinon, si vous dites non, mais on ne peut pas continuer dans la discussion géopolitique. Parce que ça, il faut que vous dites oui. Il faut que nos chefs dirigeants disent oui. Même si maintenant on a cette guerre commerciale, le grand-père Trump il a fait une erreur, je parle de cette manière de nous inviter. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on appelle en anglais Perpetual Union, union perpétuelle. Il faut comprendre la Constitution puis le développement des États-Unis aussi. Donc on doit comprendre le nôtre. Le français du Québec. Le Québec d'après la Révolution tranquille. Pour ça, il y a bien des tensions au point de vue de la laïcité. Hein? Qu'est-ce qui se passe avec la laïcité? C'est parce qu'il y a bien des citoyens, citoyennes qui, ça de notre nouveaux citoyens, nos frères et sœurs qui sont venus nous rejoindre dans le Collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, mais qui ne savent peut-être pas exactement comment le Québec moderne est devenu dans le 21e siècle. Puis à la fin du 20e siècle, puis il faut comprendre un peu la Révolution tranquille. Puis ces événements, ben c'est longue durée, ça a duré longtemps, hein, la Révolution tranquille. 20 ans, peut-être, on va dire. Ça, peut-être environ, là, en totalité, là, entre 1940, 45 et 1975. 20, 25 ans, on va dire. Ben, c'est sûr qu'il y a plus d'intensité, là, mais avec la longueur totale de la Révolution tranquille, c'est sûr qu'il y en a qui disent 10 ans, 15 ans, mais c'est sûr que je parle un petit peu de la pression du début, puis après ça, la continuité un peu jusqu'à la fin des années 70. C'est sûr qu'on ne peut pas s'entendre à 100%, là, mais plus ou moins. On peut dire entre 10 ans et 25 ans, entre environ 15 ans, si vous voulez, environ 20 ans, 15 ans. Là, ça ne se tiendra pas trop, là, mais je veux dire parce que ça des années où c'était plus intense aussi. Bon, je vais pas faire une discussion de la révolution tranquille parce que ça requiert. Donc, qu'est-ce que je vais vous en parler maintenant? C'est encore une fois, il faut dire oui à ce que je viens de dire, la déclaration géopolitique. Pour avancer, pour qu'on soit sur la même longueur d'onde, strictement de la réelle géopolitique. Comment que nous, notre stratégie doit être. Quand ça vient à la politique externe, qu'on soit un pays indépendant ou non. Même si on serait un pays indépendant, ça serait comme... Moi, je voterais non, hein, vous le savez, je voterais non. Là. Moi, je suis pour l'union avec les États-Unis plutôt, là, mais c'est d'une manière que je dis, que je me présente. Bon, c'est sûr. Fait que nous, notre intérêt principal là, dans la politique externe, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. Économique, financière, de commerce, à tous les niveaux de la géopolitique, à tous les niveaux géopolitiques, bien sûr, de la géopolitique, à tous les niveaux, bien sûr, de l'économie, des finances, de la défense, la sécurité défense. C'est réciproque pour les États-Unis, même si les États-Unis ont une frontière avec le Mexique. Mais il faut dire oui à ça. Vous comprenez? C'est oui. C'est pas quand ça vient, je parle pas de la domestique, de la politique interne domestique, là, à l'intérieur du pays. Mais quand ça vient à la diplomatie externe, notre intérêt fondamental et principal, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. Il n'y a pas de non. Il n'y a pas de peut-être. Il y a oui à cette déclaration. Fait que là, je vais pas continuer là-dessus, juste faire une méditation là-dessus, mais puis là, je vais vous parler de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, parce que ça, c'est le plus important, puis c'est un paradoxe, avec toutes mes souffrances, de l'Asperger's, l'isolation, le manque d'amis, la perte d'emploi, les cicatrices, les attaques par surprise, il y a plus que 10 ans, 11 ans, je sais pas que c'était quand, là, mais quand j'habitais là-bas, puis j'ai déménagé, je pensais que c'était en 2016, mais là, il paraît que c'était en 2015, en juillet, fait que ça fait 10 ans quand même, fait que... Et ça danse, j'aime ça la danse. Danser, c'est la bonne musique. Un vendredi, le sabbat commence du royaume et de l'Empire à minuit. Ce vendredi, pas encore le sabbat, là. Ça commence à minuit jusqu'à dimanche au coucher du soleil. Fait que ça commence bientôt, mais je pense que les autres, ils ont commencé d'avancer. Et c'est de la bonne musique, ça, techno, hein? La danse est mon sport préféré. Hey, dansez bien. Pas de violence, s'il vous plaît. Je n'aime pas la violence. Mais je suis hyper vigilant. Mais j'aime pas la violence. Mais juste hyper vigilant. Mes stratégies sont pour la défense plutôt que pour d'autres choses. Puis sont pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord. Il faut comprendre ça fondamentalement. Quand je dis soutenez mon rêve, c'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé. Un appel à un partenariat public-privé, bien sûr, pour faire de conséquences bien du travail que j'ai fait. Puis, encore une fois, je répète qu'en 2019, en octobre-novembre, j'ai prévu la situation actuelle. Hein? Il faut que je répète ça, c'est important. En 2019, en octobre, j'ai prévu qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale. Pour vous faire un petit résumé, c'est qu'à cause que des conflits qui n'ont pas été capables d'avoir de résolution dans le 20e siècle, ces conflits-là vont reprendre surtout de la guerre froide. Puis c'est ça qui se passe maintenant bien dans le monde. Hein? En Russie puis l'Ukraine, c'est des conflits non résolus du 20e siècle. Hein? Du 20e siècle, de la guerre froide qui a duré plus que 44 ans, quasiment 45 entre février 1947 et 1991. Fin décembre, la dissolution de l'Union soviétique. Et tenez compte que Poutine, il y avait quoi? Il y avait quasiment 40 ans, hein? Il y avait 40 ans quasiment. Mais il y avait comme 39, je pense. 40, 39. Quelque chose comme ça. Il y avait soit 39 ou 40. Je pense qu'il est né en... Je ne sais pas exactement, là. Je pense qu'en octobre. C'est-tu le 7 octobre, je pense? 7 octobre, ça me fait penser à l'attaque par surprise, comme moi-même, j'ai été attaqué par surprise, vicieusement, puis un gangster. J'ai pas peur des mafieux, j'ai pas peur de vous, les mafieux, j'ai pas peur de vous, les mafieux. Je ne veux rien savoir. Faites votre rédemption criminelle, puis après ça, moi puis Céline, on va vous chanter, puis on va vous applaudir si vous changez votre vie, parce qu'on a besoin de vous pour bâtir les 44 tunnels, là, dans les cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire. Fait que là, c'est ça, j'avais conclu qu'on se dirige vers une conflagration internationale. Fait que c'est là qu'on est rendu, là. On est rendu à ce point-là que j'avais prévu en 2019. J'ai même créé en conséquence, puis j'ai la preuve, hein, parce que j'ai la vidéo en ligne de ça. Fait que j'ai la vidéo en ligne. de ça. Fait que tout ce travail que j'ai fait, que je continue à en faire, bien sûr, c'est un point d'importance que je sois rendu aujourd'hui sur la montagne, ma deuxième maison, la maîtresse, la forêt de la déesse, ses cheveux que je chante. Comme une bête, sans l'air. Je suis pas méchant, je préfère les chatouiller les câlins, mais je vais me défendre. Vengeance, justice, fois 11. Hey, merci pour le savoir. Faites des pompes, pas de violence, des câlins, puis ça avance. Rock and roll, 24 sur 24, parallèlement à la géopolitique, puis la danse. Puis oui, je suis androgyne, pensez que si vous voulez me faire de l'amour, mais vous voyez que vous avez l'âge, si vous êtes adulte, homme, femme, je ne veux pas perdre le temps de personne, le temps, tu sais, c'est savoir, des amis avec bénéfice, des échanges de massages si vous voulez, hein, sinon je veux rien savoir, les échanges, sinon c'est correct, non? Tenez-vous distance, merci, bonjour, puis vivez comment vous vivrez, soutenez si vous voulez soutenir, sinon, ben juste, laissez-moi libre que je chante. Parlez pas d'amour, je deviens sourd. La TRD, théorie de la refusion. TRD, théorie de la refusion démocratique. TRD, théorie de la refusion démocratique. Puis théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est important que je discute maintenant quand je sors de la montagne. Qu'est-ce que c'est, bien sûr, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette? C'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'on soit dans ce mode d'avoir, bien sûr, du compromis de la situation qu'on vit, bien sûr, pour le faire dans ce point de concordance. Fait que là, je vais vous discuter, bien sûr, d'avoir puis de vécu, bien sûr, quelque chose que je dois faire, bien sûr, dans ce compromis, puis vivre, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence que je suis, bien sûr, dans ce point de vivre maintenant. Fait que là, j'ai tourné ma tête de la gauche et de la droite avant que je traverse dans la rue pour faire vivre. Bien sûr que je dois faire dans ce point de contingence pour le faire vivre. La théorie de la refusion de la dette, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Bien sûr, il faut faire l'implémentation, bien sûr, aussi possible, parce que ça presse, puis c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse au point de vue du quotidien, bien sûr, pour le faire. Où qu'on est rendu, on a quatre problèmes qui nous, bien sûr, qui nous font pression. Le plus en ce moment, c'est l'augmentation de tous les biens, le lait, le pain, le beurre, les œufs. Le coût de la vie augmente. De ces quatre problèmes. Mais c'est sûr que ces quatre pressions, point de pression économique, ça s'applique pour les États-Unis et le Canada ensemble. Ça fait qu'on doit implémenter la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Bien sûr, la TRD que je vous l'explique. Maintenant, c'est quoi le point de vue plus simple que je puisse le faire? Fait que ces 4 points. Le coût de la vie augmente, puis ça n'arrête pas d'augmenter à chaque jour, à chaque semaine. Les loyers augmentent. Moi, je vais dire que mon loyer a augmenté de maximum 10. Fait que je vais pas dire, je peux pas me plaindre moi-même pour mon loyer. C'est quand même acceptable, je trouve, dans mon cas. Le troisième problème, c'est bien sûr la stagnation des salaires. Dans quel ordre que vous voulez mettre ces 4 problèmes économiques, financiers pour la majorité des concitoyens de l'Amérique du Nord, du Canada, du Québec, des États-Unis. C'est quand même similaire, très, très similaire. Et le quatrième, les cartes de crédit, même maintenant à Montréal, de Montréal à San Francisco, il y a des gens qui vont des concitoyens qui vont acheter avec la carte de crédit, qui vont bien sûr continuer leur surendettement. T'sais, il va y avoir un surendettement maintenant. T'sais. Il y a un surendettement qui est en train de se faire. Maintenant, bien sûr, ce surendettement se passe même maintenant. Fait que c'est ça, bien sûr, point de vue de vivre puis de dire, bien sûr, que je dois le faire moi-même dans ce point de contingence où que je suis ici pour vivre dans cette instance puis de vivre une vie, bien sûr, où que je suis moi-même dans le point de avoir... être en stress financier moi-même. Là. Vous savez, les Asperger's, le taux de chômage est inacceptable à 80%. Là. Chez les Aspi, comme le taux de suicide est élevé, j'ai vécu ça, j'ai vécu sans emploi, j'ai vécu tout ce que pas mal, qu'est-ce que ma communauté d'Asperger's vive. Puis ça n'a pas été facile, mais on a des points forts. Puis là, je vais vous discuter la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, pour que je vous fasse, bien sûr, dans ce point de contingence que je vive moi-même, la TRD. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, Ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. TRD, théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la théorie que les Européens ont faite. Fait qu'à cause de ces 4 problèmes, on n'a pas le choix d'implémenter quelque chose qui est similaire à ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est pour ça que je vous dis, les amis avec bénéfice seulement ou prêter allégeance légion. Fait que là que je me dirige vers chez nous, avant le sabbat, je commence à avoir faim un peu. Fait que j'ai des pogos, merci pour ceux qui ont fait le don pour que j'aille la sécurité alimentaire et je me dirige pour le faire et faire le manger que je préfère. Ah oui, citoyen, concitoyenne, let's go. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est la solution. Pourquoi je me prononce ainsi? Ben car aujourd'hui on est rendu à payer bien sûr aussi sur la dette qui s'est accumulée durant la COVID, un intérêt plus qu'auparavant. Fait que ça met de la pression sur les finances publiques, même que il y a 2 semaines, j'ai vu dans les nouvelles qu'il y aura, comme jamais auparavant dans l'histoire moderne, des coupes dans les services publics du point de vue fédéral du Canada. Fédéral. Jamais auparavant dans l'histoire moderne. Fait qu'est-ce que ça veut dire l'histoire moderne? J'imagine que c'est depuis la fin de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Entre comme les 75 ans qui viennent de passer, ou les 100 ans en histoire moderne. C'est sûr que c'est un terme qu'on peut définir, là, qu'on peut s'élonger puis définir un peu la définition de moderne, là, mais j'imagine du 20e, 21e siècle. Fait que ça a déjà commencé, hein, les coupes dans les services. Fait que la TRD, ma TRD de la refusion de la dette, c'est fondamentalement un partenariat public-privé par contre. C'est pour ça que je dis, c'est un partenariat public-privé qu'il faut faire l'implémentation de ma TRD ensemble, bien sûr, avec les États-Unis. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. C'est qu'il y a la théorie que les Européens ont fait de l'implémentation des années 90. Fait que dans la TRD, théorie d'intégration, dans la théorie de la refusion de la dette, est intégrée la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait que dans cette théorie, la théorie d'intégration monétaire, exactement, c'est la théorie que les Européens ont fait l'implémentation dans les années 90. En détruisant les Allemands, les Italiens, les Français en France, Belgique, Allemagne en Italie, ont détruit leur banque centrale. Ils ont détruit leur banque centrale et commune, bien sûr, cette banque centrale qu'ils ont détruit. Puis ils ont construit, dans les années 90, reconstruit, bâti, détruit, en construisant. Ils ont fait la création d'une banque centrale. Ils ont fait la construction d'une banque centrale multinationale. Fait que plusieurs pays, bien sûr, se servent. Ils ont comme banque centrale commune la Banque centrale européenne. Fait que dans les années 90, ils ont fait l'implémentation de la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait que nous, dans ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, est intégrée cette théorie que les Européens ont ils ont appliqué, ils ont implémenté cette théorie. Fait que, écoutez bien, fait que là, je vous l'explique, la TRD le plus possible, simplement sans trop d'intellect, bien sûr que ça soit trop d'académie d'intellectuels, bien sûr, pour que ça fasse, bien sûr, du point de vue intellectuel, ou bien sûr, trop sophistiqué, ou bien que ça soit, bien sûr, dans ce point de compromis, bien sûr, pour vivre aujourd'hui la situation qu'on vit de la crise financière. La plupart des gens sont endettés, les coûts augmentent, les loyers augmentent, la stagnation des prix. On ne veut pas continuer. On est en train d'avoir un effondrement financier même. C'est possible que ça soit lundi, le 28 juillet, là, le mois du lion, là, que ça fondre. Ça fond. C'est possible, là. C'est possible. Et qu'est-ce que c'est possible? On ne peut pas dire non. Hein. Mais j'ai la solution. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée. Là, je vous l'explique. Parce qu'il faut faire l'implémentation en point de vue binational. Au Canada et aux États-Unis, il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation ensemble. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000 de côte à côte. toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis. Fait que mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, ton 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000. Fait qu'on va faire la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire l'addition avec la dette publique-privée des États-Unis et cet argent-là, ça va constituer la fondation principale avec l'argent qui circule, of course, qui, bien sûr qui est en circulation aussi, plus la dette publique-privée. Ça va fonder l'argent initial en circulation pour une nouvelle monnaie qui aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis, fait que la création d'une nouvelle banque centrale, on va appeler peut-être la Banque Impériale République. Parce qu'on va fusionner le Canada et les États-Unis en faisant l'implémentation de ma TRD. On va faire la création de l'UI. U point unité, point échange, point universel. U point unité, point échange universel. U point unité, point échange, point universel. U point unité, point échange universel. L'unité d'échange universelle aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis, bien sûr. Fait qu'on va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. 10%. Fait que tout cet argent-là aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. On va mettre ce taux d'intérêt de 10%. Avec la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, on va faire rebâtir l'infrastructure du Québec, des États-Unis, les 63, les 10 plus 50 plus 3 qu'on va fusionner ensemble dans cette nouvelle constitution impériale perpétuelle. On va financer les gens à l'entraînement physique. On va financer le tourisme, on va financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, on va financer le tourisme, on va financer les gens, bien sûr, au sport, on va finir avec la frontière, on va faire un grand recensement à travers les États-Unis et le Canada, voir qui vivent ici depuis 7 ans et plus, pour pouvoir qui servent dans cette nouvelle institution de partenariat public-privé sur l'armée du dragon. Bien sûr que le nom officiel, ça va être la Légion impériale pour la sécurité service défense. La Légion impériale pour la sécurité service défense, avec l'armée de la déesse qui danse, bien sûr, la Ligue impériale intégrée de danse pour l'éducation environnementale, pour l'environnement, pour l'action de l'environnement, bien sûr, puis pour l'action, bien sûr, l'éducation aussi, parce que ça prend beaucoup de l'effort individuel aussi, tel que le collectif. Ça prend l'individu aussi. Vous voyez, des fois, dans les poubelles, c'est des choses qui vont dans le recyclage, puis ça, des gens, des concitoyens qui mettent ça dans les poubelles, comme des canettes ou du plastique, ou bien sûr... des bouteilles qui vont dans le recyclage, ils vont pas là. Fait qu'il y a beaucoup de travail collectif, individuel. Fait que ces deux nouvelles institutions vont servir pour le 21e siècle. C'est un partenariat public-privé. Fait que toute cette dette-là, public-privé, on va faire la conversion de toute la dette public-privée du Canada. Moi, j'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même. Bien sûr, j'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même. J'ai bien sûr une dette de 10 000 $ à la Banque Royale, mais c'est une ligne de crédit, c'est pas une carte de crédit, j'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même, mais là on voit qu'il y a un record du surendettement, puis avec les prix qui augmentent, la stagnation des salaires, on s'en va vers un effondrement, là, une crise financière énorme, là. Qu'est-ce qu'on va couper, là? Aussi, dans les services publics, s'ils commencent à couper les prisons, la police, la GRC, c'est déjà qu'on est en crise avec la guerre. La guerre, tu sais, c'est sûr qu'il n'y a pas ben de fentanyl qui passe aux États-Unis, mais par contre, il faut dire que le 24 octobre ou le 25 octobre, l'année passée, en 2024, la GRC, la police fédérale, ils ont découvert un super laboratoire où que c'était la première fois qu'ils avaient découvert ce grand super laboratoire interne, puis c'était par un crime organisé transnational, et vu à cause qu'on s'est impliqué dans certains conflits, avoir pas juste donné de l'aide humanitaire, mais bien sûr parce qu'on a donné on a financé certains armements, et bien sûr qu'on s'est fait des ennemis puissants par une certaine politique externe, par qu'est-ce que j'appelle ma philosophie de direction d'action militaire bien sûr directe, que bien sûr dans cette action militaire directe, c'est quelque chose bien sûr que ces puissances, ces pays puissants peuvent utiliser ces groupes criminels transnationaux pour nous faire mal à l'interne, pour nous faire mal. Ben oui, ça c'est des théories de philosophie que j'ai développées et intégrées dans le développement de la stratégie de la géopolitique. Fait que là, je retourne à la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, bien sûr, on va faire la conversion, bien sûr, dans ce point de convergence, bien sûr. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse dans ce point de convergence pour le faire, de ce point d'avoir vécu, bien sûr, pour vivre aujourd'hui, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut qu'on utilise le plus possible, bien sûr, de faire aussitôt possible l'implémentation de la TRD, bien sûr, parce que c'est quelque chose que il faut qu'on se dirige à cause qu'on se dirige vers cette conflagration internationale de plus en plus, puis ici à l'interne du Québec, du Canada, des États-Unis, vers ce conflit interne, bien sûr, qu'il y a un possible effondrement financier, et même que la GRC a donné, bien sûr, un avis, bien sûr, public l'année passée, à cause que bien les Canadiens sont surendettés, bien sûr, bien, le surendettement des Canadiens, bien sûr, ça l'a fait que, bien sûr, il y a un point d'avoir des problèmes internes puis des émeutes, bien sûr, pour le faire. Quand même des nouvelles externes que je regarde, ça s'appelle le WION. C'est des nouvelles de World is One News. World is One News, c'est externe, mais bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'ils ont mis, bien sûr, en ligne, puis qui ont discuté cette situation interne canadienne, le surendettement, puis les citoyens qui sont en dette, puis les citoyens de la crise financière. C'est un document qui a été donné au gouvernement Trudeau de la GRC. C'est un gouvernement qui a été donné au gouvernement de Trudeau l'année passée, puis ça a été dans les nouvelles, ça. Fait que moi, j'ai payé bien attention, et c'est sûr que j'intègre tout ce qui se passe à l'intérieur dans le contexte de la géopolitique. Fait que là, on n'a pas le choix d'implémenter la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. La T, théorie R, refusion d'aide de la dette. La T, théorie R, refusion d'aide de la dette. La théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse l'intégration, bien sûr, pour le faire, bien sûr, et que c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, que je le dis moi-même dans ce point de convergence, que je suis, bien sûr, dans ce point de vivre aujourd'hui, dans ce point, bien sûr, où que moi-même, je suis en stress financièrement, puis j'ai appris beaucoup de choses sur moi-même. Merci à mon ami Anonyme pour ses livres qui m'ont ouvert les yeux, bien sûr, puis qui m'ont tellement ouvert les yeux comment je suis vulnérable moi aussi, tu sais, à cause de l'Asperger, comment je suis vulnérable moi aussi, fait que moi aussi que j'ai ces vulnérabilités, tu sais, à cause que l'Asperger, des fois on est direct, honnête, puis des fois on dit des choses pas parce qu'on veut offenser, c'est parce qu'on voit les choses différemment. Fait que des fois, c'est pour ça que j'ai appris beaucoup à la gestion de mes caractéristiques à cause de ces livres. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Apprécier le syndrome de l'Asperger. Ça s'appelle en anglais Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. Fait que c'est ça, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je le fasse moi aussi dans ce point de situation que je vis aujourd'hui en tant que neurodivergent. Mais, paradoxe, toutes les souffrances que je mets sur la table avec les milliards de bisous, c'est que, bien sûr, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, il faut faire l'implémentation. Fait que toute la dette publique-privée, bien sûr, mon 10 000, ton 10 000 de côte à côte de science, on va faire la conversion ensemble. Fait que toute la dette publique-privée, on va la faire, toute la dette publique-privée, on va faire bien sûr la conversion de toute la dette publique-privée ensemble. On va faire la conversion, bien sûr, de toute la dette publique-privée ensemble. Fait que mon 10 000, ton 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, bien sûr, tout le 10 000 ensemble, mais moi j'ai 10 000 moi-même en tant que citoyen, bien sûr, pour le faire en conséquence, bien sûr, d'avoir fait de ce point de vivre, bien sûr, aujourd'hui, de point de être direct avec cette explication, de plus que je puisse le dire de manière sophistiquée ou intellectuelle. C'est ça que ça sert plus à rien, tu sais, de dire des mots trop intellectuels vis-à-vis à qu'est-ce que c'est pas. La TRD, c'est une théorie financière il faut faire l'implémentation. Fait que je vous l'explique sans plus de détails que je dois donner en ce moment. Mais En général, c'est ça qu'il faut qu'on fasse. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, bon 10 000, ton 10 000, 110 000, et bien sûr de côte à côte. On va faire la conversion en devise des États-Unis, on va faire l'addition avec la devise des États-Unis, et cet argent-là, ça a fait la création d'une nouvelle monnaie, une nouvelle banque, le UI, unité d'échange universel, UI, U point unité, A point échange point universel, U point unité, A point échange universel. L'unité d'échange universel aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis, des États-Unis, aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis, aura la valeur de dollar des États-Unis. Avec cet argent-là, par contre, on va faire bien du bien. Fermement, on va finir avec la frontière. On va faire un recensement, on va bâtir plus de centrales d'Hydro-Québec, on va faire des réparations des ponts, faire des réparations de l'infrastructure. On va faire, bien sûr, des réparations de l'infrastructure, des ponts. On va financer les gens au tourisme, l'entraînement physique, puis la création. On va devoir bâtir 44 tunnels. Dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, bâtir les 44 tunnels. Dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, on va bâtir, construire 44 tunnels inspirés par les montagnes Cheyenne, puis bien sûr par la de Montréal, puis paradoxe, je suis pas un partisan ni un sympathisant de Hamas, mais on bâtit en dessous de Gaza depuis 2007 comme des centaines de kilomètres puis de mètres de kilomètres, des centaines de kilomètres de tunnels. Fait que nous, on va bâtir 44 systèmes de tunnels à travers l'Amérique du Nord, le Canada, les États-Unis, dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire, en implémentant ma TRD, théorie de la refoulement de la dette, la création de l'UI, U point unité, A point échange, U point universel, on va pouvoir faire tout ça, faire bien sûr aussi la création de ces deux institutions de partenariat public-privé, soit l'armée de la déesse qui danse pour l'environnement, l'armée du dragon, soit la Ligue, Légion impériale pour la sécurité, service et défense. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille pour l'Empire, on va se fusionner, on va signer peut-être le 11 septembre là, sur la montagne, l'union de cette union perpétuelle avec les États-Unis